Chapter 572. Seigo stood next to Ouyang Shanshan, holding a shiny black pistol in his hand. There were 6 or 7 gangsters next to him, all of whom were also holding guns. After seeing Qin Haodong, Ouyang Shanshan twisted her body desperately and whimpered. Unfortunately, her mouth was blocked and she couldn't say anything. Seigo put the pistol against her head and snapped, "Behave yourself, or I'll shoot you." Qin Haodong walked up the steamed bun mountain and said to Seigo, "Put down the gun. I've brought the money. Hurry up and let her go." "Don't worry, I have to let someone check the goods first." Seigo took back his pistol and said, "Where's the money?" Qin Haodong pointed to the Mercedes-Benz off-road vehicle at the foot of the mountain and said, "There's too much money. It's all in the car." Seigo waved his hand behind him. A yellow-haired gangster ran down the mountain and opened the door of the Mercedes-Benz. When he saw the scene inside the car, he immediately shouted excitedly, "Brother Go, money. So much money." Qin Haodong said, "This is 30 million, not a cent less. Hurry up and let her go." "Let her go?" Seigo and his men laughed together and looked at Qin Haodong as if he was an idiot. "Boy, is there something wrong with your head? Why do you think I chose such a place? I just want to bury you down there." Qin Haodong said coldly, "It seems that you don't want to keep your promise." "What is a promise?" Seigo laughed again, "Only a brainless thing like you will keep your promise. Let me tell you, today I'm going to take your money, fuck your woman, and kill you." After that, he waved his hand at the gangsters and said, "Do it." After receiving Seigo's order, the gangsters raised the guns in their hands one after another. But before they could completely raise their guns, they saw a golden stream of light flash past and cut their throats like a meteor. These people's eyes widened in disbelief. Then a cold air rushed into their throats and their hands holding the guns no longer had any strength. They wanted to scream, but they couldn't make a sound. Plop. 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 In an instant, all the hooligans except Seigo fell into a pool of blood. Although they died with grievances, they were still dead. Seigo was originally smiling proudly, but at this moment, his smile froze on his face as if he had been petrified. He didn't even see what had just happened, but all his men were dead. What kind of method was this? Was it a celestial art or a demonic art? It was even faster than a handgun. Turning around, he quickly raised the gun in his hand and pointed it at Ouyang Shanshan next to him. He knew that she was his last hope. But as soon as he raised his hand, he felt his hand lighten. The hand that was holding the gun fell to the ground along with the gun. Blood flowed out, followed by a heart-wrenching pain. "Ah!" Seigo screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Qin Haodong put away the Xian Yuan sword and walked to Ouyang Shanshan. He reached out and grabbed the towel in her mouth. Then he tore the rope around her body. "Haodong, you are finally here." Ouyang Shanshan threw herself into his arms and sobbed. "It's okay, it's all over." Qin Haodong comforted Ouyang Shanshan and turned back to Seigo and shouted, "Hurry up and dismantle this bomb, or you will die. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'll dismantle it now." Seigo endured the pain in his arm and came to Ouyang Shanshan. He stretched out his trembling left hand and pressed a button on the bomb. Originally, he thought that the bomb would stop after pressing this button, but he didn't expect that with a beep, the bomb did not stop. On the contrary, it began a countdown of 180 seconds. Qin Haodong's expression changed and he shouted sternly, "What are you doing?" "I don't know. I really don't know." Seigo was so nervous that he didn't know what to do. He said in horror, "That man told me that this is the stop button. As long as I press it, the bomb will be automatically dismantled. I didn't expect it to be like this. Who gave you this bomb?" "It's a mysterious man. I don't know who he is." Feeling Qin Haodong's murderous aura, Seigo didn't dare to hide anything. "The mysterious man gave me 10 million yuan and asked me to flirt with Ouyang Shanshan first, then kidnap her here, and then deceive you here to kill you." He gave me these guns and bombs. After the deed is done, the money that I extorted will belong to us, and this woman will also be under our control. I was blinded by greed and agreed to it. Please let me go this time. Qin Haodong immediately understood that this was a trap completely aimed at him. Ouyang Shanshan was just a victim and Se Go was a victim. In this case, there was no need to talk nonsense with Se Go. He kicked him out. This kick was so powerful that Se Go flew more than 10 meters away and hit his head on a stone. There was no more movement. Qin Haodong looked back at the timer. The countdown had begun and there were 160 seconds left. Ouyang Shanshan hugged his neck and kissed him hard. Then she pushed him away and cried with tears in her eyes, "Go quickly. Don't worry about me. The bomb is about to explode." Qin Haodong was not nervous at all. He said with a smile, "Don't worry, it's just a small bomb. It's nothing." Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud roar above his head. A green helicopter approached from afar and finally hovered 100 meters above his head. Qin Haodong looked up. His intuition told him that this helicopter was directly related to today's kidnapping. It was likely that the person on it was the mastermind. But the door of the helicopter was closed and he couldn't see anything. At this moment, the cell phone in his pocket rang. He picked up the phone and heard Zheng Hongliang's proud laughter. "How is it, Qin? Are you satisfied with the program I arranged for you?" Qin Haodong said coldly, "You're courting death. You're the one who's courting death." Zheng Hongliang said fiercely, "A bumpkin from Jiangnan dared to provoke me. I lost face at the banquet and was almost punished by the old man when I got home. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think I'm made of clay." Qin Haodong said coldly, "Do you think you can kill me like this? Don't worry, these are just appetizers." Zheng Hongliang laughed wildly again. "Let me tell you something. The bomb on Ouyang Shanshan's body was specially customized by me. Once it's activated, it can't be disassembled. And this bomb is directly connected to the satellite in the sky. It can't be moved 10 meters away from this position, otherwise it will explode immediately. Before you came, I bought 20 kilograms of explosives at the bottom of this hill. When this bomb explodes, it will immediately detonate the explosives below. At that time, neither of you will survive. Now you have two choices. One is to stand here and wait to die with her, and the other is to leave this woman and watch her die. How's the news? Are you happy? Are you surprised?" After that, he laughed arrogantly again. All of this was a trap set by him. Since he got the consent of Jing Yuan, the master of the Jing family, he began to deploy troops and set up a trap that he thought was foolproof. In order not to arouse Qin Haodong's suspicion, he found Se Go to be the scapegoat. When Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan were in the Western restaurant, Se Go and Ouyang Shanshan didn't meet by chance at all. It was a trap that had been prepared for a long time. Including the subsequent conflict and kidnapping, it was all a show. The purpose was to lead Qin Haodong here. Qin Haodong said, "You've spent so much effort and used so much power. I'm afraid it's not your idea alone, right? You're a dead man. Why are you asking so many questions?" Zheng Hongliang smiled disdainfully and said, "But since you want to ask, it's okay for me to tell you. Your existence has indeed threatened the survival of our Jing family. Killing you is my grandfather's idea, and it's also the idea of our Jing family. You're able to make our top family in Shanghai attack you. Even if you die, you'll be proud in front of the king of hell." After understanding everything, Qin Haodong said with killing intent, "Zheng, just you wait. I will definitely kill you and destroy your Jing family." Zheng Hongliang laughed arrogantly again and said, "You think too much. How can I let you get out of this trap alive? Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you so many things. To tell you the truth, my plane has the world's most advanced observation camera equipment. When you are blown to pieces, I will record this wonderful scene. When I'm in a bad mood one day, I will take it out and watch it. He was now playing with Qin Haodong like a cat playing with a mouse. He was enjoying the pleasure of killing Qin Haodong at the end to vent the hatred that had accumulated in his heart. At this moment, Ouyang Shanshan suddenly pulled his arm and shouted, "Qin Haodong, don't say any more. Go quickly. The bomb is about to explode. If you don't leave now, it will be too late." On the phone, Zheng Hongliang shouted excitedly, "There will be a grand fireworks show soon. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Qin Haodong, go to hell." Qin Haodong ignored him and put away his phone. He glanced at the timer on Ouyang Shanshan's chest and saw that there were only 10 seconds left. "Let's go." Then he picked up Ouyang Shanshan and rushed down the steamed bun mountain at top speed. He believed that Zheng Hongliang was telling the truth. If it was just a timer, if it was just a timed bomb, it would be nothing. If all the explosives under the hill were detonated, it would be troublesome. The steamed bun mountain was not too high. It was about 50 meters from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain. Qin Haodong's speed was far beyond that of ordinary people. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the foot of the mountain. This was a timed bomb. The bomb made an ear-piercing sound. Although the countdown had not ended, the bomb was activated 10 meters away from the top of the mountain and exploded. Chapter 573. The explosion of the bomb caused a huge airflow, sweeping the surrounding sand, stones, and leaves into the sky. Thick smoke billowed in the original area. Looking at the scene below, Zheng Hongliang laughed in the helicopter. "This toy boy is really stupid. He actually ran with a bomb. Isn't he looking for death? Now, you've been blown to smithereens." But what he didn't see was that at the moment the bomb exploded, Ouyang Shanshan's body lit up with a red light, blocking all the impact of the bomb and protecting her body from any harm. It was the black tortoise jade pendant, a magic weapon with extremely strong defensive power. It was said that it could resist any attack from masters below the supreme power realm. This bomb was not highly explosive, so the lethality of the explosion was limited. It was completely within the protection range of the black tortoise jade pendant. As a strong master at the early stage of the gold core realm, Qin Haodong's genuine qi had been strong to a certain extent. Although it was not invulnerable, it was not something that could be hurt by such a small bomb. So the bomb did explode, but it failed to detonate the explosives buried in the mountain, so Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan were unscathed. At the moment when the bomb exploded, Ouyang Shanshan was really scared. She thought that she had left this world. When she saw that she was safe and sound, she felt as if her life had been saved. She lay in Qin Haodong's arms and began to cry. "I thought I would never see you again." Qin Haodong hugged her and comforted her. "I told you, with me here, a bomb is nothing." Ouyang Shanshan stopped talking and suddenly hugged Qin Haodong and kissed him desperately. On the plane, Zheng Hongliang was satisfied. He shook his head and said, "I didn't expect this guy to be so easy to deal with. I didn't use many tricks." Just when he was about to ask the pilot to fly back, he suddenly saw the scene after the smoke and dust dispersed. He saw that Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan were not only unscathed, but also hugging and kissing. What the hell is going on? He rubbed his eyes desperately, but found that it was not an illusion, but real. Although there was a deep pit in the ground and the trees next to them were blown up, Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan were standing outside, unscathed. They were hugging and kissing each other. Damn it. He punched the wall of the helicopter hard, then grabbed the walkie-talkie next to him and shouted, "Execute the original plan. Fire." Qin Haodong was enjoying kissing Ouyang Shanshan when he suddenly felt a great sense of crisis. He suddenly picked up Ouyang Shanshan and rushed to the top of the mountain at a speed 10 times faster than when he came. As soon as they left, the dense rain of bullets completely covered the place where they had just been, causing sand and stones to fly everywhere and dust to fly everywhere. When he returned to the top of the mountain, the sense of crisis was gone. Qin Haodong breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that the sure-kill situation that Zheng Hongliang had mentioned was not that simple. He had placed a large number of gunmen around the whole hill. Just then, his cell phone rang again. He pressed the answer button and said, "Boy, I didn't expect you to be such a monster. The bomb didn't kill you." Qin Haodong laughed and said, "You're not qualified to kill me. Even if you die, I won't die." Zheng Hongliang gritted his teeth and said, "Boy, don't be complacent too early. I've placed 100 gunmen around the top of the mountain as soon as you arrived. Even if you are a supreme power, so what? Can you be more powerful than a gun?" Qin Haodong said, "100 gunmen. Your Zheng family really put in a lot of effort. You really think highly of me. You must die. As long as you're alive, you'll be a great threat to our Zheng family." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "I won't die, but you will die today." What a joke. Zheng Hongliang laughed again as if he had heard the funniest joke. "Do you think my head is just for show? I've long known that you're not easy to deal with, so I watched from the helicopter. Do you have the ability to come up and kill me?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Maybe. Qin, don't think that I don't know martial arts. Do you think you're a saint? Come up and kill me. I'm waiting for you here." After laughing, Zheng Hongliang picked up the walkie-talkie again and issued an order to the gunmen at the foot of the mountain, "Immediately go up to the top of the mountain and surround this guy. Shoot him into a sieve." But when he put down the walkie-talkie, he was surprised to find that Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan had disappeared from the top of the mountain. What's going on? Where are they? Why are they gone? Zheng Hongliang was shocked. If it weren't for the sun rising in the east, he would really think that he had seen a ghost. The helicopter pilot next to him said, "I don't know either. Suddenly, these two people disappeared from our sight. Camouflage. It must be a camouflage. I don't believe that he can fly out of here." Zheng Hongliang grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted wildly, "Shoot, shoot for me, shoot indiscriminately." On the steamed Bun Mountain, a large number of gunmen attacked, and dense bullets covered the entire top of the mountain like raindrops. "Bastard, I don't believe that I can't kill you like this." Zheng Hongliang clenched his fists and shouted wildly. Suddenly, a golden light flashed under the helicopter and directly cut off the rotating propeller. The hovering helicopter immediately flew down the hill like a broken fly, crashing into the top of the hill with a loud bang. Because the speed was too fast, neither the pilot nor Zheng Hongliang had any chance to react. There was no time to parachute at all, and they crashed into the steamed Bun Mountain with the helicopter. The violent collision detonated the fuel in the helicopter's fuel tank. After a loud bang, flames rose into the sky. That was not the end. The explosion of the helicopter detonated the explosives buried under the mountain. 20 kilograms of explosives suddenly exploded, and the huge explosive force lifted the entire top of the steamed Bun Mountain. The violent explosion brought about a powerful wave of air, sweeping the sand and stones in all directions. None of the 100 gunmen who had just rushed up were spared. They all became ghosts under the bomb. Ouyang Shanshan, who was in Qin Haodong's arms, watched what was happening in front of her. She was so surprised that she was like a wooden man. This scene was even more shocking than the blockbusters of M Country. In just a breath's time, a helicopter and 100 heavily armed gunmen were gone just like that. What shocked her even more was how Qin Haodong flew. The two of them came directly under the helicopter as if they were stepping on a ladder. Just now, Zheng Hongliang was clamoring on the phone for Qin Haodong to come up and beat him up. As a result, Qin Haodong came up and in the blink of an eye, there was nothing left of him. Qin Haodong was very satisfied with the effect of his creation. He slowly landed at the foot of the mountain before the effect of the ascending talisman disappeared. Just now, he used the invisibility talisman to hide the two of them, then he used the ascending talisman to come under the helicopter and directly cut off the helicopter's propeller with the Xian Yuan sword. All of this sounded simple, but it was a godlike operation. In the whole of Huaxia, he was probably the only one who could do it. The only fly in the ointment was that under the huge explosion, the Mercedes-Benz SUV was also blown into a pile of scrap iron. Fortunately, the 30 million yuan was disguised with illusion, otherwise the loss would be even greater. Seeing that Ouyang Shanshan was still in a daze, Qin Haodong reached out and patted her cheek. How are you? Are you okay? No. No. I'm fine. If it weren't for the sun hanging high in the sky, Ouyang Shanshan would really think that she was dreaming. It was already beyond her imagination that the bomb did not hurt her. She didn't expect that so many incredible things would happen later. Today, Qin Haodong had brought her too many shocks. She had thought that she would definitely die here, but in the end, she was unscathed. She really didn't know what this man couldn't do. This kind of shock also brought her a strong sense of disparity. This man was so excellent that he was destined to belong to a different world from her. It's good that you're okay. Qin Haodong took out his phone and looked at it. It was already 8:00 in the morning. Thinking that Ouyang Shanshan was flying to Hong Kong today, he asked, "What time is your flight? Can you make it?" "The flight is at 10:00 in the morning. I can make it if I have a car, but now," Ouyang Shanshan said as she looked at the SUV that had turned into a pile of scrap iron. "It doesn't matter. It's not too late. Someone will come soon." As soon as Qin Haodong finished speaking, there was a violent sound of a motor. A row of commercial cars roared over. It was the people from Daddy's security company. When Qin Haodong came over, he called Ma Wenjue just in case. However, he was too fast and his location was not very accurate, so the people from Daddy's security company arrived a little late. "Boss, are you okay?" Ma Wenjue jumped out of the car and hurried to Qin Haodong. He reached out and touched Qin Haodong's body. Qin Haodong quickly pushed him away. "What are you doing, gay? Come on, I won't look for you even if you're gay. I just want to see if you're missing any parts," Ma Wenjue said as he turned his head to look at the steamed bun mountain. At this time, the steamed bun mountain had been razed to the ground by the explosives. Occasionally, some dark red flesh could be seen, which made people shudder. He asked with a murderous look, "Boss, what the hell is going on? Who is so bold as to attack you?" In terms of force, Daddy's security company was now the #1 boss in Shanghai. At this time, someone dared to attack his good brother, which made him very angry. "It's the Zheng family," Qin Haodong said as he told the whole story of Zhang Hongliang setting up a killing trap for him from beginning to end, which made Ma Wenjue shudder. "Boss, this is a killing trap. If it were me, I would have died 100 times. How did you come back to life? Is it a ghost?" As he spoke, he touched Qin Haodong's face again. "Get out of here, I'm fine." Qin Haodong slapped his hand away and said, "Arrange your people to send Shanshan to the airport in a car. The rest of you come with me to the Zhou family." Chapter 574. After saying goodbye to Qin Haodong reluctantly, Ouyang Shanshan rushed to the airport under the protection of several members of the Daddy security company. Qin Haodong drove them to the Zhou family. After getting in the car, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhou Xinju's number. The phone rang for a long time before Zhou Xinju's lazy and coquettish voice came from the other side. "Calling me so early in the morning, disturbing my sweet dream, you have to compensate me." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Tell me, what did you dream about?" "I'll compensate you. I dreamt that I gave birth to a beautiful daughter, but I was scared away by your phone call. Accompany my daughter." I really can't afford it." Qin Haodong said, "I want to see your old man. Please help me arrange it." "What are you going to do to see our master?" Zhou Xinju asked curiously. "I have something important to discuss with him." Zhou Xinju said with a smile, "You're not going to propose to my grandfather, are you?" "I promise you on behalf of my grandfather." I'm not joking. It really is something big, and it's very urgent. You must hurry up and arrange it for me. I'll be at the Zhou family in half an hour. Is it that urgent? Seeing that Qin Haodong was serious, Zhou Xinzhu quickly got up and said, I'm going to Grandpa's place now. Half an hour later, when Qin Haodong appeared in front of the Zhou family's manor, Zhou Xinzhu was already waiting there. After seeing him, Zhou Xinzhu hurriedly greeted him. She reached out to hold his arm and complained, What's the hurry? I didn't even put on makeup. Qin Haodong smiled and said, You are born beautiful, even without makeup. I like what you said. Zhou Xinzhu giggled. Are you sure you're not here to propose marriage? I have something important to discuss with Elder Zhou. Isn't the marriage proposal important? How about you mention it while you're at it? Qin Haodong quickly changed the topic and said, By the way, I still don't know your grandfather's name after such a long time. What's your grandfather's name? My grandfather is Jie Chou. Qin Haodong's feet softened and he said, I'm not joking with you. I'm not joking with you. Zhou Xinzhu said, What's so strange about that? My grandfather's name was given by my great-grandfather. It has been used for more than 70 years. How old is that star Jie Chou? When my grandfather named him, his father probably wasn't even born yet. Oh. Alright, I'll see which of these two Jie Chows is more handsome. The two of them chatted and laughed as they entered the Zhou manor. In an elegant little courtyard, an old man with a ruddy complexion was sitting there brewing tea. He was the head of the Zhou family, Zhou Jieluan. Grandpa, I brought Haodong here. In front of the old master, Zhou Xinzhu still restrained herself. She let go of Qin Haodong's arm and let him sit down on a chair. Then she reached out to pick up the tea set in front of her and poured a cup of tea for the old master and Qin Haodong respectively. Greetings, Elder Zhou. Qin Haodong greeted him and then looked at the master of the Zhou family in front of him. Although the old man was already over 70 years old, he looked hale and hearty, with white hair and a youthful complexion. Although his face was full of wrinkles, it could still be seen that he was definitely a handsome man when he was young, at least not worse than Jie Chou. While he was looking at the old master was also looking at him. After looking at him, he said with a smile, Not bad, young man. You're very handsome. No wonder Xinzhu can't forget you. Zhou Xinzhu said shyly, Grandpa, what are you talking about? I didn't, you're embarrassed, girl. Well, I won't say it anymore. Old Master Zhou looked at Qin Haodong and said, Young man, I want to thank you first. Not only did you help me discipline my good-for-nothing grandson, but you also cured Xinzhu's illness. You know, I have high hopes for Xinzhu. She is the future heir of our Zhou family, so you have helped our Zhou family a lot. Tell me, how do you want me to repay you? If you want to propose marriage, I will agree now. Qin Haodong was speechless. What kind of granddaughter was like what kind of grandfather? He kept talking about marriage. He handed the teacup to the old man and said, Old master, please have some tea. Young man, Xinzhu said that you have something urgent to discuss with me. What's the matter? Old Master Zhou said as he picked up the teacup and took a sip leisurely. Qin Haodong said, Then I'll be straightforward. I want to join forces with the Zhou family to destroy the Jing family. Pfft. Old Master Zhou drank a mouthful of tea. Before he swallowed it, he spat it out, followed by a violent cough. Zhou Xinzhu rushed over, took the teacup in his hand, and patted his back. It took a long time for the old man to recover. As the head of the Zhou family, he was known to be a cunning old fox. In the past, he would not change his face even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. However, the news that Qin Haodong had told him today was too shocking. Little Qin, are you kidding? He stared at Qin Haodong and said. Of course not. I'm serious. There's only one chance. If you miss it, there won't be another. Old Master Zhou looked straight at Qin Haodong. After a long time, he said, You're indeed a young hero. I know that your daddy's security company is very strong. Even Sun Xingtian, that old bastard, didn't dare to show his face after being beaten by you. But you didn't go too far with the Sun family. Why did you suddenly propose to destroy the Jing family? Give me a reason. Because the Jing family attacked me. Qin Haodong briefly told them about the killing trap that Zheng Hongliang had set up for him last night. Then he said, generally speaking, I don't bully people, but I've never been bullied, let alone suffered losses. Since the Jing family wants my life, they have to bear my anger. So, I want the Jing family to be removed from Shanghai. Although Qin Haodong's words were very brief, Old Master Zhou and Zhou Xinju still heard the thrill of life and death. Zhou Xinju glanced at him and said nervously, How are you? Are you okay? Qin Haodong spread his hands and said with a smile, As you can see, I'm fine. A little Zheng Hongliang can't do anything to me. Old Master Zhou picked up the teacup and took another sip of tea. He looked calm on the surface, but in fact, a storm had been set off in his heart. Ever since Qin Haodong had brought people to the Sun family, he had been paying attention to the young man's movements. When he learned everything about Qin Haodong, his evaluation of the young man had been constantly improving. However, he had still underestimated Qin Haodong. If it had been him, he wouldn't have been able to think of a way to break Zheng Hongliang's killing trap. The only result would be death. However, this young man was sitting in front of him, unscathed. This made him admire and awe him. Jing Yuan, the old man, had been extremely cunning all his life. He hadn't expected that he would make a serious mistake and provoke such a devil. It seemed that the Jing family would be destroyed. Fortunately, he had a smart and beautiful granddaughter who had a good relationship with Qin Haodong. Now it seemed that Shanghai was going to change. The situation of the three families that had been maintained for many years was going to change. After calming down, he put down the teacup and said, Young man, tell me, if our two families cooperate, what do you need the Zhou family to do? Qin Haodong said, I will take people to wipe out all the warriors of the Jing family. The rest will be handled by Old Master Zhou. For a big family, the most important thing was to protect the family's strength. If the family's strength was wiped out, it was equivalent to becoming a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. From this point of view, Qin Haodong had done the most difficult thing, and the Zhou family had taken advantage of the situation. However, he had no choice. Although the Daddy Security Company was strong, it could not be compared with a big family that had accumulated for many years in many aspects. After wiping out the Jing family's strength, there were still many things to do, such as taking over the Jing family's industry and calming down the influence from all aspects. These required a lot of manpower and resources, so he had to use the power of the Zhou family and cooperate with them. Zhou Jieluan narrowed his eyes and showed a fox-like smile on his face. What Qin Haodong could do was exactly what the Zhou family could not do. According to this cooperation plan, it was equivalent to Qin Haodong directly giving the Zhou family a big cake. Chapter 575. In the Jing family, ever since Zheng Hongliang took away 100 gunmen, Jing Yuan had been in a state of restlessness. He did not sleep for the whole night. He thought over Zheng Hongliang's plan countless times and felt that there were no loopholes. With 100 gunmen in such a delicate situation, even a 9th-level Supreme Power Master would not be able to escape alive. There was no reason for Qin Haodong not to die, but there was always a feeling of uneasiness in his heart. As time went by, this feeling became stronger and stronger. The sky was getting brighter and the sun was rising higher and higher, but there was still no news from Zheng Hongliang. Jing Yuan paced back and forth anxiously. The housekeeper stood beside him with his hands down. There was breakfast on the table that was already cold. How is it? Is there any news from Hongliang? Jing Yuan couldn't remember how many times he had asked. Not yet. His phone is off and I can't contact anyone. The housekeeper said, but according to your arrangement, I have already sent someone to inquire about the news. There should be news coming back soon. As he was speaking, the housekeeper's phone rang. He quickly pressed the answer button. 2 minutes later, he hung up the phone. Jing Yuan asked eagerly, How is it? The housekeeper said, The steamed bun mountain has been completely blocked by the police. According to the news from the inside, the steamed Bun Mountain has been blown into ruins. Jing Yuan looked happy. Since the explosives had been successfully detonated, Qin Haodong would definitely die. He asked, "What about Hong Liang? Is there any news about him? Why haven't the 100 gunmen come back yet?" The housekeeper hesitated for a moment and said, "There is no news from the young master and the 100 gunmen, but the wreckage of the helicopter was found at the scene of the explosion." What? Jing Yuan's face suddenly turned pale and he sat down on the chair behind him. The helicopter had been taken by Zheng Hongliang. Since the wreckage of the helicopter had been found, Zheng Hongliang must be in danger. However, he didn't understand how Qin Haodong did it. Did he have a rocket with him? How could he shoot down the helicopter? The helicopter had crashed and there was no news from the 100 gunmen. This made him have a bad feeling again. After a moment of silence, he asked, "What about Qin Haodong? Is there any news from him? Is there any movement from the Daddy Security Company?" "At present, our people haven't found Qin Haodong. The Daddy Security Company is quiet as if there is no one there. However, someone saw Ouyang Shanshan at the airport. She has boarded a plane to Hong Kong." "What? Ouyang Shanshan boarded the plane?" Hearing this news, Jing Yuan was completely dumbfounded. Since Ouyang Shanshan was not dead, it proved that Qin Haodong must be fine. It's over, it's all over this time. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart. He had thought that he could completely eradicate Qin Haodong and get rid of a big threat for the Jing family, but now Zheng Hongliang's life and death were unknown, while Qin Haodong was safe and sound. What he was most worried about now was not his grandson's life or death, but Qin Haodong's revenge. According to past information, this young man was definitely not someone who was willing to suffer losses. The Sun family smashed his Lin's group, so he directly led his people to attack the Sun family. Now that the Jing family tried to kill him, it was conceivable how he would retaliate. "Master, are you all right?" the housekeeper asked anxiously. Jing Yuan took a deep breath, barely suppressing his surging emotions, and said, "Inform the direct descendants of the Zheng family to transfer the Zheng family's assets as soon as possible." The housekeeper said, "Master, it's not necessary. After all, our Zheng family is the biggest family in Shanghai, and we have 2 supreme power masters. Qin Haodong won't dare to do anything." Jing Yuan said with a desperate face, "It's useless. In terms of force, the Sun family is stronger than us. They have 3 supreme power masters, but so what? They were still beaten by Qin Haodong. Now I understand why Sun Xingtian would rather be a coward than take revenge on Qin Haodong, because we can't afford to provoke him." He still didn't understand how Qin Haodong escaped from the siege of 100 gunmen and how he destroyed Zheng Hongliang's helicopter. At this moment, a bodyguard rushed in from outside and said, "Master, something bad happened. Someone broke into our Jing family." Jing Yuan jumped up from his chair and asked, "Who is it? How many people came?" "A lot of people, at least a few hundred," the bodyguard said. "It's Qin Haodong with the people from Daddy Security Company and the Zhou family." "Master, please think of a way. The people from Daddy Security Company are too fierce. Our people can't stop them at all." "Qin Haodong, you're so cruel." Jing Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and sat down on the chair again. If it was only the people from Daddy Security Company, it would be better. At most, they would sign an unfair contract like the Sun family and lose some money. But they never thought that Qin Haodong would join forces with the Zhou family. What did this mean? It meant that Qin Haodong didn't want to let the Jing family live at all. He was going to eat them up. "Master, are you okay?" The housekeeper rushed forward and supported Jing Yuan, who was on the verge of falling on the chair, and said, "Why don't we call the police? Although it's not good for our family's reputation, it can help us get through this." "Call the police?" The housekeeper's words were somewhat unexpected. In the previous battles between families, they had never used the power of the government. The housekeeper said, "Master, now the Jing family is in an emergency. We can't care so much. No matter how capable Qin Haodong is, he has to gain a foothold in Huaxia. If he does, he can't fight against the government. Zheng Yuan thought for a moment and felt that the housekeeper's words were reasonable. He said, then try it. Call the police immediately and say that someone has invaded our Zheng family. Yes, master. The housekeeper agreed, took out his mobile phone and dialed the police number. Soon, he found that he couldn't get through at all. There was no signal at all. He quickly grabbed the landline next to him, but the result was the same. The phone was busy and he couldn't get through at all. Seeing his panicked look, Zheng Yuan asked, "What's wrong?" The housekeeper said, "Master, our signal has been completely cut off. We can't get in touch with the outside world now. It's over. The Zheng family is completely over." Zheng Yuan's face was pale and he murmured, "It's Zheng Hongliang, that bastard, who harmed our Zheng family. If I had known this, I wouldn't have taken the initiative to provoke Qin Haodong. Even if he coveted our traditional Chinese medicine industry, there was always a chance to negotiate. But now there's no chance." The head bodyguard asked nervously, "Master, the enemy is in front of us. What should we do now?" Zheng Yuan stood up shakily and said with a determined face, "What will come eventually. It's not a solution to hide. Immediately gather all the people of the Zheng family and go out with me." Qin Haodong took people to the door of the Zheng family's house. After dealing with several bodyguards at the door, a member of the Daddy Security Company was about to smash the door as he had done in the Sun family's house. Qin Haodong quickly reached out to stop him. "You can hit people, but you can't smash things. In the future, this will be our company's industry. If you break it, you'll have to spend money to repair it." Old man Zhou stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Boy, you got into the zone early. Now you think of yourself as the master. Of course, the landlord has no surplus food. It's better to be careful." Qin Haodong smiled and rushed into the Zheng family's house with Ma Wenjue. Seeing that someone had broken into the Zheng family's house, the servants of the Zheng family rushed out aggressively at first, but they were beaten by the people of the Daddy Security Company and fled to the back. By the time Zheng Yuan rushed out with the consecrators, the Zhou clan servants and bodyguards were already lying on the ground. Screams and wails filled the air. "Qin Haodong, what are you doing? Our Zheng family has been tolerant of you again and again. Why are you attacking us?" The one who spoke was Zheng Hongliang and Zheng Hongda's father, Zheng Yuan's eldest son, Zheng Bin. Qin Haodong looked at Zheng Yuan next to him and said coldly, "Why did I attack the Zheng family? You can ask old man Zheng. He knows best." Zheng Bin was puzzled and turned to look at his father. Zheng Yuan sighed and said to Qin Haodong, "This is our Zheng family's fault. I just want to know if there is any room for negotiation. Can you let our Zheng family go?" "Let the Zheng family go?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "I just want to know, when the Zheng family bought the 20 kilograms of explosives, did you think about letting me go? When you arranged for 100 gunmen, did you think about letting me go?" Seeing that there was no room for negotiation, Zheng Yuan said excitedly, "Then what do you want? Do you want to destroy our Zheng family?" "You're right. I want the Zheng family to be removed from Shanghai." Qin Haodong said, "I always take revenge. Since your Zheng family punched me, don't blame me for kicking you back." Zheng Bin cried, "Boy, you're so arrogant. I want to see if you have the ability to remove our Zheng family. Then I'll show you." Qin Haodong looked up and said to the followers of the Zheng family, "I'll give you a chance. I won't stop you from leaving the Zheng family now. If you stay and resist stubbornly with the Zheng family, don't blame me for being cruel. Boy, you're so arrogant. Let me see what you're capable of." While speaking, an old Taoist stepped out. The Zheng family had two great master followers. One was called the Pen Scholar, and the other was the squinting Taoist in front of them. The squinting Taoist looked only 30 or 40 years old, but in fact, he was over 70 years old. However, this old Taoist was an evil cultivator who was proficient in the art of collecting yin to nourish yang, so he looked so young. One of his most notable features was that his eyes suffered from severe squinting. Whenever he looked at someone, his eyes would look to the side, so people gave him the nickname of Squinting Taoist. However, this guy was very talented in martial arts. He turned his squinting eyes into an advantage. Whenever he fought with someone, no one could see where his attention was, so he achieved the effect of winning by surprise. Chapter 576. The Squinting Taoist had done too many rapes outside. Later, he was chased by decent cultivators and had no choice but to hide in the Jing family. However, this guy's cultivation was at the second level of the supreme power realm and his swordsmanship was superb. Although he had heard about Qin Haodong breaking into the Sun family before, he didn't take it too seriously. Such a young man in his 20s who didn't have any genuine qi on him, how powerful could he be? When he spoke, he looked directly at Qin Haodong, but in fact, he was glancing at Zhou Xinju next to him. He said with a lewd smile, "Little girl, you look good. Big breasts and big buttocks. I'll take good care of you later." Zhou Xinju was scared by his strange eyes. She couldn't help grabbing Qin Haodong's arm and saying, "This old Taoist is not a good person at first glance. Help me teach him a lesson." "You're right. He's really not a good person. I'll help you get rid of his lewd squinting eyes first." Qin Haodong already knew the information of the two guardians of the Zheng family like the back of his hand. As he spoke, he flicked his fingers and two silver lights that were difficult to be seen by the naked eye went straight to the evil-eyed Taoist. "It's just a small trick." The squinting Taoist had already seen that Qin Haodong had only shot two ordinary silver needles, so he didn't take them seriously at all. He raised his hand and slapped out. In his opinion, with his cultivation at the second level of the supreme power realm, he could shake the two silver needles away with his palm. But what he didn't know was that Qin Haodong's cultivation was higher than his. The two silver needles were filled with pure green wood genuine qi. Not only were they not shaken away by the palm, but they pierced through his protective gang qi, penetrated his palm, and directly pierced his eyes. "Ah!" the squinting Taoist screamed and there was darkness in front of him. Because he had underestimated Qin Haodong, he had lost his eyes directly. Before he could finish screaming, Qin Haodong's huge foot had kicked his lower abdomen, directly breaking his dantian. The squinting Taoist screamed again, followed by a soft sound. An amazing scene happened. Like a deflated balloon, his entire body began to shrink rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he had shrunk by a size. His tall and straight posture also became incomparably stooped. His pitch-black hair was as white as snow. His smooth skin became wrinkled like the bark of an old tree. He looked like a completely different person, like an old man in his 70s or 80s. After Qin Haodong destroyed his dantian, the essence qi he had collected for many years turned into nothingness, so he immediately recovered his original appearance. "Son of a bitch. How dare you cripple this old man's cultivation base? I'll fight you to the death." The squinting Taoist rushed forward like a madman, but at this time, his power had been destroyed. Walking had become a luxury, not to mention fighting. He had only taken 2 steps when he fell flat on his face. His loose teeth fell all over the ground. He raised his head and shouted with his mouth full of blood, "Bastard, why don't you kill me? Hurry up and kill me." Just a few minutes ago, he was still a high-spirited master at the second level of the supreme power realm. In the blink of an eye, Qin Haodong had turned him into a cripple. This feeling made him feel like dying. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Kill you? That's too easy for you. You've done a lot of evil over the years. Just wait for the people you've harmed to come and take revenge on you. Throw him out." He waved his hand behind him. Immediately, 2 members of the Daddy Security Company came forward, pulled the squinting Taoist up and threw him out of the gate. "Kill me. Kill me now." The squinting Taoist screamed miserably, but his eyes were blind and he couldn't even tell the direction. He couldn't find the gate of the Zheng family at all. He had done a lot of evil over the years. If his enemies knew that his cultivation had been destroyed, they would come to find him. Even death would become an extravagant hope. Seeing that Qin Haodong had destroyed the evil-eyed Taoist with one move, the faces of the guardians of the Jing family all turned pale. The squinting Taoist was the only second-level supreme power master in the Jing family. He was the #1 master among them. Even such a person couldn't stop Qin Haodong's move. How could they fight against him? They were just guardians of the Jing family, not men of sacrifice. There was no need for them to live and die with the Jing family. At this moment, everyone's mind was shaken. At this time, a scholar in a robe stood up with a huge iron pen on his back. He was another supreme power master of the Jing family, the Iron Pen Scholar. I know that I'm no match for Mr. Qin. I'll leave now. Please be merciful, Mr. Qin. He couldn't even beat the squinting Taoist. He was only a first-level supreme power master. He knew that he was no match for Qin Haodong, so he stood up and admitted defeat. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, I have no grudge against you. There's no need to make things difficult for you. Let's go. Thank you, Mr. Qin. The Iron Pen Scholar breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't even look at Jing Yuan. He moved his feet and disappeared from the Jing family's courtyard. Qin Haodong said to the other guardians, I'll count to 10. If you're still in the Jing family after that, your cultivation will be abolished. 10. 9. 8. 7. Qin Haodong had just counted to 4. Before he finished counting to 10, the executives of the Jing family scattered like birds and beasts. Not a single one was left. To put it nicely, they were called consecrators, but to put it bluntly, they were bodyguards hired by the Jing family. These people were not descendants of the Jing family, so their loyalty was naturally not high. When they saw that things were not going well, they immediately ran away. Looking at the empty surroundings, Jing Yuan seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. He hesitated for a moment and finally stepped in front of Zhou Jieluan and said, Brother Zhou, I'm a few years older than you. For the sake of so many years of living together, please leave our Jing family a way out. Old Zhou waved his hand and said, Old Jing, don't tell me you still don't understand. I'm not in charge today. It's useless even if you kneel down to me. Alas. After a long sigh, Jing Yuan staggered to Qin Haodong and knelt on the ground. Mr. Qin, it's our Jing family's fault this time. For the sake of me, please let our Jing family go this time. The people of the Jing family all looked sad. Old Master Zheng, who used to be superior in the entire Jing family and even the entire Shanghai, was now kneeling in front of a young man and begging for mercy. They could do nothing in the face of this situation. They had seen this kind of situation before, but it had always happened to their opponents. They had never thought that it would happen to the Jing family one day. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Qin Haodong looked at the white-haired Jing Yuan and said, For the sake of your age, I won't kill you. Hand over your Jing family's property, then take your people and get out of here. Don't ever appear in Shanghai again. Okay, I agree. Although it was only 4 simple words, it was extremely difficult for Jing Yuan to say them. The once prominent first family in Shanghai would no longer exist from now on. As the saying goes, a single mistake can cause everlasting regret. If he was given another chance, he would not provoke the young man in front of him no matter what. Qin Haodong ignored this. He turned his head and said to the old man, I'm done here. I'll leave the rest to your Zhou family. Don't worry, little brother. Now the Jing family is like a naked woman. I can't do anything about it. Speaking of this, he suddenly realized that his granddaughter was next to him. It was not appropriate for him to say such words, so he quickly said, Shinju, did you hear that? Hurry up and do as little brother says. Take over all the Jing family's property within 1 day. Got it, Grandpa. The Zhou family came prepared. They had already prepared a large number of people. Under the leadership of Zhou Shinju, these people began to quickly plunder the fruits of victory. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. It seemed that his cooperation with the Zhou family this time was the right choice. Otherwise, it would be easy to defeat the Jing family, but it would be difficult to take over this huge property. Next, the people of Daddy's security company were responsible for guarding, and the people of the Zhou family were responsible for taking over. Qin Haodong and old man Zhou stood aside and were idle. Little brother, let's sit here. After Qin Haodong easily defeated the Jing family, Zhou Jieluan unconsciously changed the way he addressed Qin Haodong to little brother. There was a stone table not far from them, and there were a few bamboo chairs next to it. The two of them sat down nearby. Little brother, you're really young and promising. I've lived for almost half of my life, but I've never seen such an outstanding young talent like you. Qin Haodong looked at old man Zhou, who had a sinister smile on his face. In terms of age and experience, he had lived for more than 500 years. This old man was too young to be his grandson. How could he not see that he had other thoughts? Old man Zhou, I'm a straightforward person. If you have something to say, just say it. You could see it before the old man even spoke. How could this be called a straightforward person? After secretly criticizing him, old man Zhou said, Brother, with the strength of your daddy's security company, I'm afraid no one in the entire Shanghai can match you. Why don't we cooperate again? Although he didn't say it clearly, Qin Haodong understood what he meant. Shanghai originally had 3 big families. Now that the Jing family was removed, there was still the Sun family. Old man Zhou wanted to cooperate with him again and completely erase the Sun family. In the future, only the Zhou family would be left in the imperial capital. Qin Haodong looked at him with a smile and said, Old man, you're so bold. Aren't you afraid that I'll eat your Zhou family after eating the Sun family? Old man Zhou smiled and said, There's no need for that. In the future, the master of our Zhou family will be Xinju. We're all family, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Now is a good opportunity. If we get rid of the Sun family, Shanghai will belong to your daddy's security company and our Zhou family in the future. Chapter 577. Old man Zhou sighed with regret, but he still said unwillingly, Won't you think about it? Qin Haodong said, There's no need to think about it. In fact, I won't stay in Shanghai for long. I'll leave soon. After the trip to the capital, Qin Haodong's life goal immediately changed dramatically. What he needed to do now was to improve his strength as soon as possible, strengthen his team, and one day enter the capital with dignity and meet his parents. Therefore, things that were extremely important to Zhou Jieluan were nothing to him. If the Jing family hadn't taken the initiative to provoke him this time, he wouldn't have changed the situation of the 3 families. Then forget it. Zhou Jieluan shook his head. But you still have to be careful of the Sun family. I know that old guy Sun Xingtian very well. You've smashed his nest, so he won't let it go. The reason why he's temporarily enduring is to wait for an opportunity. Sooner or later, he'll take revenge on you. Qin Haodong smiled and said, If he wants to die, then don't blame me. In the bedroom of the Sun family, Sun Xingtian stood in front of the black-robed man and said respectfully, Your Excellency, Qin Haodong has just wiped out the Jing family. I'm afraid it won't be long before he attacks our Sun family. Is there any news from the sect master? The black-robed man said coldly, How can you ask about the sect master's affairs? You haven't finished what the holy sect gave you. When you're done, you'll naturally come to Shanghai. At that time, it'll be easy to deal with Qin Haodong. Sun Xingtian said, I see, Your Excellency. I've already completed most of it. It'll be done in a few days. The next day, the sun rose. Yesterday was a thing of the past, and the Jing family had also disappeared from the upper class of Shanghai. Today was Monday. Lin Momo was in charge of taking over the Jing family's business. Qin Haodong followed everyone to school. Boss, you're finally here. I missed you so much. Boss, what have you been doing these days? Did you go somewhere to flirt with girls again? Ji Fubao and Tian Boguang immediately pounced on Qin Haodong when they saw him. They grabbed his arms from both sides, looking extremely intimate. Let me go, you too. Don't let people think that I have a special hobby. Qin Haodong smiled and said, I went to the capital these days to do something. Ji Fubao said, Boss, I find that you are really a god. You haven't been to class for almost a week, but the school seems to be fine. No one asked you at all. Tian Boguang said, this world is really unfair. I skipped a class and rolled in the sheets with a lonely girl. As a result, I was severely criticized by the teacher and almost got a demerit. Boss, on the other hand, ran around for a week and was completely fine. Ji Fubao said, you want to compete with the boss with your little ability? Don't you know that old Su in our college has learned medical skills from the boss? At this moment, a clear voice said, Fatty, who is this old man Su you're talking about? Ji Fubao looked back and saw Su Hui appear behind him, holding a shiny silver needle in her hand. During this period of time, Su Hui had been practicing the 9 magical needles of plum blossom on him, which left a big shadow on his fat heart. Although the effect of losing weight was excellent and he had lost about 70 to 40 kilograms, the feeling of wanting to die made him tremble. No. No. Who are you talking about? I'm talking about the old man who sells Su Crisp at the school gate. It has nothing to do with your grandfather. I suddenly have a stomachache. I'm going to the toilet. After that, the guy immediately ran out through the urethra. I'll go and see if this guy lied to you. Tian Boguang felt that he was in the way, so he ran out with him. Seeing that the 2 guys had left, Su Hui said to Qin Haodong, where have you been these days? My grandfather is in a hurry to find you. I went to the capital. Qin Haodong asked curiously, why is your grandfather looking for me? Su Hui said, I don't know the details. It may have something to do with the academic exchange group of Koryo. He said that as long as you come to class today, you have to go back with me in the evening no matter what. He will make it clear to you face to face. Qin Haodong had a very good impression of Su Hongbo. He said, well, I'll go to your house with you tonight. Not to my house, but to my grandfather's house. Qin Haodong said in surprise, didn't you just say that your grandfather was looking for me? Su Hui said with a red face, my grandfather is looking for you, but my grandmother said that she hasn't seen you for a long time and asked you to go to her house for dinner. Qin Haodong said, oh. Well, the dishes she cooks are very delicious. It's just the right time to comfort my stomach. Su Hui said in surprise, you agree? Qin Haodong said with a smile, why should I refuse such a good thing? That's great. Let's go together tonight. A gratified smile appeared on Su Hui's face. In the past few days, she had been annoyed by Zhu Chunmei. Every day, she asked her to take Qin Haodong home for dinner. She said that she wouldn't get along with boys, so her grandmother would do her a favor. Soon the bell rang. When the tutor Zhang Xiaoyan saw Qin Haodong, she just nodded slightly, as if she didn't care about his truancy these days. Since the teacher didn't ask, he didn't explain too much. After school, he followed Su Hui to his grandfather Lu Qigong's house. Little Qin, where have you been these days? Why don't you come to our house more often? As soon as Qin Haodong entered the door, Zhu Chunmei enthusiastically pulled him in. She liked him very much, as if she was looking at her grandson-in-law. Little Qin, sit here with Hui Hui and have a good chat. I'll go cook for you. Then she turned and went into the kitchen. At this time, Lu Qigong came out of the room. When he saw Qin Haodong, he said with surprise, Little Qin, you're here. Come to my room quickly. I have something good to show you. After that, he pulled Qin Haodong into his room without any explanation. Su Hui shook her head slightly and could only follow him in. Little Qin, thank you so much this time. If it weren't for the jade pendant you gave me, the archaeological work wouldn't have been completed so smoothly. Last time, when he was in the ancient tomb, the archaeological work was suspended. Later, Qin Haodong cured his illness and Lu Qigong entered the ancient tomb with the jade pendant. Sure enough, as Qin Haodong said, people within a radius of 10 meters would be fine, but people beyond 10 meters would feel cold all over and get sick after a long time. With the pendant as a guarantee, the archaeological work went very smoothly. All the finishing work was completed yesterday, and he had just returned to Shanghai this morning. Qin Haodong said, "It's good that everything went smoothly. Take this thing with you. You can use it when you enter the ancient tomb in the future. Little Qin, take a look. We've made a huge discovery this time. Guess whose tomb it is?" Lu Qigong said as he turned on the computer and pulled up the video materials left by them during the archaeological work. These materials were all internal records, and outsiders could never see them. He was sincerely grateful to Qin Haodong for his help, so he shared what he thought was the most precious thing with him. Qin Haodong moved the mouse and kept flipping through the photos on the screen. To be honest, he was not very good at these archaeological things, nor was he very interested in them. However, this tomb was extremely luxurious and spacious. The collection in the tomb was indeed very rich, and each of them looked very beautiful. He cooperated and asked, "Old master, whose tomb is this?" "Wei Zhongxian. It's Wei Zhongxian's tomb." Lu Qigong said excitedly, "After our joint research and verification, we're sure that this tomb belongs to Wei Zhongxian, the great eunuch of the Ming dynasty." Su Hui asked, "Wei Zhongxian? Wasn't he burned to ashes by Emperor Chongzhen? Why is there his own tomb?" "It's not surprising. This is the cenotaph that Wei Zhongxian prepared for himself in advance. When it came to the industry he was good at, Lu Qigong talked incessantly. According to our deduction, this tomb belongs to Wei Zhongxian. He probably expected that he would not have a good end, so he built this tomb in advance. The location of the tomb is very hidden, and there are no bones in it. It should have been prepared in advance. But later Emperor Chongzhen killed him directly and didn't give him a chance to be buried at all." Qin Haodong said, "Since there was no burial, why are there so many funerary objects?" Lu Qigong said, "At that time, Wei Zhongxian was powerful in the court and was known as 9,000 years old. He had countless wealth in his hands, so it's normal for him to put some things in advance." "Oh." Qin Haodong nodded and continued to look at the pictures on the computer, but he was not very interested in these bottles and cans, so he looked through them very quickly. Suddenly, a picture jumped out. It was an open scroll, like an imperial edict, but not an imperial edict. There were 2 words written in the ancient Huaxia language on it, and there were many small words below. The handwriting was very good. The handwriting was very good. It was bold and powerful. At the end, there was even a big red seal. Seeing this thing, Qin Haodong was a little interested. He stopped and asked, "What is this, old man?" Lu Qigong said, "This is the letter of credence. It was written by Koryo to the Ming dynasty, and the seal of the king of Koryo was stamped at the bottom. It turns out to be a letter of credence." Qin Haodong asked, "Old man, since it's a letter of credence from Koryo, why is it written in Huaxia language?" Lu Qigong said, "At that time, Koryo was only one of the affiliated countries of Huaxia, and the Ming dynasty was the Celestial Empire. In order to show respect, the affiliated countries asked the ministers who were proficient in Huaxia language to write the letter." Chapter 578. Su Hui said, "Grandpa, why don't you publicize this archaeological discovery so that those people of Koryo can shut up?" Lu Qigong said, "Some things are not as simple as you think. In fact, there is a lot of evidence like this in Huaxia, but these archaeological discoveries belong to the country, and the officials of Koryo have not officially said those things. Therefore, the officials of Huaxia naturally can't refute the rumors publicly, and some debates are carried out in private among the people." Qin Haodong nodded and looked at the ancient Huaxia characters on the letter and said, "I didn't expect that a person of Koryo could be so narcissistic. It's really rare." Lu Qigong said, "According to our archaeological and historical research, the person who wrote this letter is called Kim Daejian. He became a diplomatic officer of Koryo by relying on his beautiful Huaxia characters. All the written materials submitted to the Ming dynasty were written by him." "Kim Daejian? Qin Haodong was stunned when he heard the name, and then he began to reflect on himself in his heart. I'm sorry, I'm evil. He asked again, Grandpa, I still don't understand why there is such a thing as a letter in Wei Zhongxian's tomb. Lu Qigong said, now the legends about Wei Zhongxian in Huaxia are all negative. In the eyes of the people, he is a traitor who can't be any worse. However, from a historical point of view, he actually made a lot of contributions to the Ming dynasty, including establishing diplomatic relations with other countries and resisting foreign invasions. He was also a very ambitious person. I reckon that he wanted his descendants to see his achievements, so he deliberately placed this letter in his tomb. The three of them were chatting when the door opened and Su Hongba came in from outside. Su Hui asked, Grandpa, why did you get off work so late today? Don't mention it. I had an emergency meeting all afternoon. Su Hongba said, then grabbed Qin Haodong and said, Little Qin, come here quickly. I have something to tell you. After that, he took Qin Haodong to another room in a hurry. Lu Qigong said discontentedly, Old Su, Little Qin is discussing ancient culture with me. What's there to discuss about those broken bottles and jars? I have something to do here. Come with me, girl. Old Lu, don't come and make trouble. Su Hongba took Qin Haodong and Su Hui to another room and closed the door. Qin Haodong asked, What's the matter, sir? Su Hongba said, Something big has happened. The academic exchange group of Koryo Medical College will come to our school tomorrow. Su Hui said, It's just an exchange group. What's the big deal? Didn't our school often send exchange groups in the past? Do you have to act like you're facing a formidable enemy? This is completely different from before. Su Hongba said solemnly, This time, although it's a cultural exchange group, it's actually aimed at our School of Chinese Medicine and even Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine. Because of this, the school is paying so much attention to this matter. Even the Ministry of Health of Huaxia is paying special attention to this matter and repeatedly instructed our school to deal with it well. Qin Haodong said, Is it that serious? Su Hongba said, This time, the exchange group of Koryo is aggressive and ill-intentioned. The leader of their team is Li Minte, a visiting professor of Koryo Medical College. Like you, he is also called the medical sage in Koryo. Qin Haodong smiled and said, With their little medical skills, they just learned a little from Huaxia. How dare they call themselves medical sages? Su Hongba said, That's the problem. These people are not only arrogant but also used to robbing others' things. Li Minte not only calls himself the medical sage, but also often says that traditional Chinese medicine comes from Koryo and was passed on to Huaxia by them. Qin Haodong frowned and said, These people really have no bottom line. They shout all day long that everything belongs to them. Do they deserve to pass on traditional Chinese medicine to Huaxia? The dispute between Koryo Medical College and traditional Chinese medicine has been very hot recently, and Li Minte is the main representative of Koryo. Just a few days before he came to Huaxia, he published a related paper. So we guess that Koryo Medical College is likely to take the opportunity to make trouble at this exchange meeting and claim that traditional Chinese medicine comes from Koryo Medical College. We are responsible for receiving them, so if we don't deal with them well, we will be in a very passive position. In addition, in order to expand their influence, Koryo Medical College not only invited many international media, but also invited Miss Alice, the president of the World Medical Association, to participate in this exchange meeting. Because of this exchange meeting is related to the face of traditional Chinese medicine and the whole Huaxia, so the higher-ups attach great importance to it and the college is even more nervous. Qin Haodong said indifferently, In fact, it's not necessary. It belongs to whoever it belongs to. They can't take it away even if they want to. Su Hongba said, With you, the medical sage, I'm confident. But you disappeared for several days in a row, which made me so anxious. I'm afraid that you won't be able to come back tomorrow. I'm telling you, before the medical exchange meeting is over, you can't disappear again. Qin Haodong said, It's about traditional Chinese medicine. I'm duty-bound to do whatever you need me to do. Su Hongba was very satisfied with his attitude and said happily, "The basic agenda of the exchange meeting has come out. It is mainly divided into two parts. The first part is academic exchange, and the second part is medical exchange. Each college will send 5 representatives. Out of the 5, the order is 3. 2 structure consisted of 3 students and 2 teachers from the academy. The college entrusted me to be in charge of all the matters of this medical exchange meeting, and Fang Heluan is responsible for assisting me. As for the students, I've already submitted your name. In addition to you, Su Hui and another second-year student will also be participating." Qin Haodong nodded and didn't say anything more. He had enough confidence in Chinese medicine. As long as he was there, those Koreans wouldn't succeed. It didn't matter who else would participate. The 3 of them talked about the details of the exchange meeting again. At this moment, the door opened. Zhu Chunmei said discontentedly at the door, "You 2 old men, it's not easy for little Qin to come here. Why don't you let him chat with Hui Hui more? Why do you always interfere?" Su Hui blushed and said shyly, "Grandma, we're talking about something." Zhu Chunmei said, "What are you talking about? Hurry up and eat." Lu Qigong also appeared at the door and said, "Little Qin, hurry up and eat. Don't talk to that old man. I have a few newly bought antiques later. Help me appreciate them." Zhu Chunmei said discontentedly, "No, after dinner, let little Qin and Hui Hui go to a movie. You 2 old men are not allowed to interfere." Qin Haodong was speechless. He had really become the focus of this family. He quickly said, "Grandma, hurry up and eat. I've been aroused by the smell of your food." Zhu Chunmei immediately said with a smile, "Let's eat. I've made a lot of delicious food for you." After sitting at the table, Zhu Chunmei asked Su Hui to sit on the left side of Qin Haodong, and she sat on the right side. She kept putting food into his bowl. Looking at the dishes in the bowl, Qin Haodong was speechless. He thought, it's okay to pick up some food. Why are they all fried kidney? Am I so weak? The most important thing was that although there were many women in the family, he could not touch any of them. Wasn't it torture to eat so much kidney? After dinner, Qin Haodong left Lu Qigong's house. Not long after he went out, the phone in his pocket rang. It was James, a cardiopulmonary expert of the World Medical Association. After the phone was connected, James said respectfully, "Dear teacher, how are you recently?" "I'm fine. What's the matter?" James said, "Teacher, Miss Alice, the president of the World Medical Association, went to Huaxia today." Qin Haodong said, "I heard." James suddenly raised his voice and said discontentedly, "Teacher, do you know what? This woman is so hateful. She doesn't believe in the magic of traditional Chinese medicine, your magical medical skills, and everything I said about traditional Chinese medicine. This time she went to Shanghai to participate in a medical exchange meeting. I want her to visit you in Jiangnan after the meeting. At that time, you must show her magical medical skills and make this woman completely shut up. I'm really fed up with her arrogance and her ignorance of traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "No need, James. I'm in Shanghai now, and tomorrow I will participate in this medical exchange meeting on behalf of the School of Traditional Chinese Medicine of Shanghai Medical College. Dear teacher, what are you going to do in Shanghai? Are you going to be a professor at the School of Traditional Chinese Medicine? Isn't that too unfair for you?" "I'm not a professor, I'm a student." Qin Haodong said, "Don't ask for the specific reason. I have some important things to do here." James said, "Oh. I see, teacher. You must show Alice how magical traditional Chinese medicine is." Qin Haodong ended the call with James, but before he took a few steps, his phone rang again. This time it was Kim Ji-hyun. Now the 2 of them had a good relationship. He answered the phone and said, "Haven't you left Huaxia yet?" "Not yet. I came to Huaxia on behalf of the Kim Group to participate in the financial summit. I can't go back until the event is completely over." Kim Ji-hyun said, I heard that you are going to participate in the academic exchange meeting between Shanghai Medical College and Koryo Medical College this time. Qin Haodong didn't expect that Kim Ji-hyun would know as soon as he received the news. He asked in surprise, "How did you know?" Kim Ji-hyun said, "Lee Junki of Koryo Medical College just left my place. His father is Lee Min-tae, the head of the translation delegation. He is also one of the members of this exchange meeting. I saw your name on the list of Shanghai Medical College from him, so I called you." Qin Haodong didn't speak, just listened quietly. He felt that Kim Ji-hyun was not just talking about this matter. There must be something else. Chapter 579. Sure enough, Kim Ji-hyun continued, "Lee Junki told me that they didn't come to Huaxia for a simple medical exchange meeting, but for another purpose. Now that traditional Chinese medicine in Huaxia is declining, they want to take the opportunity to prove that Koryo medicine is better than traditional Chinese medicine, and then prove that traditional Chinese medicine came from Koryo medicine. I know it's wrong for them to say that. Although I don't know anything about medicine, I know that Koryo medicine was learned from Huaxia. What they're doing is completely distorting the truth. I know you hate this practice very much, so I called you." Qin Haodong said, "Thank you for telling me this. It shows that you are a girl with a sense of justice. You don't have to thank me. I didn't help you much." Kim Ji-hyun said, "In fact, most people in our country are like me. They agree with the spread of Huaxia's culture and its help to the development of our country. Only a few ambitious people will jump out to talk nonsense and distort the truth." Qin Haodong said, "I should thank you for thinking of calling me." Kim Ji-hyun said, "In fact, even if I didn't call you, I knew that they wouldn't succeed." "Why?" Qin Haodong was very curious why this girl would have such an idea. Kim Ji-hyun said with a smile, "Because of you. In my heart, you are omnipotent and invincible. With you attending this cultural exchange meeting, they will definitely lose miserably. I will also go to the scene tomorrow and cheer for you." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Are you so confident in me?" "Of course, otherwise why would I want to be your disciple? Unfortunately, you didn't accept me." Kim Ji-hyun was a little depressed, but she soon cheered up and said, "By the way, I heard from Lee Junki that they seem to be writing some articles in the Compendium of Materia Medica. I don't know if this will help you." Compendium of Materia Medica. This is a milestone work in the history of traditional Chinese medicine in Huaxia. What can they do? Kim Ji-hyun said, "I don't know. Lee Junki just mentioned it and didn't say much about the specific content." Qin Haodong asked, "By the way, why did Lee Junki tell you so much?" Kim Ji-hyun paused for a moment and said shyly, "Because he has been pursuing me, but I didn't agree because I think this person is too materialistic." After hanging up the phone, Qin Haodong recalled what Kim Ji-hyun had just said. Now it was basically certain that Koryo came to Shanghai with bad intentions this time. However, after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure out how the other party would make a fuss about the Compendium of Materia Medica. The next day, the cultural exchange meeting between Koryo Medical College and Shanghai Medical College's School of Traditional Chinese Medicine officially began, and the location was chosen in the auditorium of the medical college. A platform for the exchange meeting was built in the middle of the auditorium. The platform was surrounded by reporters with cameras. Most of them were from Huaxia, and some were from Koryo and M country. The seats around the auditorium were full of students who came to watch. They were all here to cheer for the medical college. In an office backstage, 2 teachers and 3 students of Shanghai Medical College who were about to participate in the exchange meeting gathered together. When Qin Haodong saw another student who was going to participate in the exchange meeting, he was immediately shocked. He had never expected that the other student would be Feng Wu, the first campus belle of Shanghai Medical College. The moment he saw Feng Wu, he immediately understood why this girl was ranked first. At the same time, he also understood why the Koryo people in the Taekwondo club didn't pursue her even though she was the first campus belle. Because she was so beautiful that people didn't want to get close to her. She was so beautiful that people didn't have the courage to pursue her. In terms of appearance and figure, she was comparable to Nailan Wushuang and the others, but this girl gave people a kind of holiness from the bottom of her heart. If she stood together with Li Jiumei, she would give people a completely different feeling. Li Jiumei's sexiness would make people fantasize about her, while Feng Wu made people unable to have any indecent thoughts. Blasphemy. If it was just her appearance, Qin Haodong would not be so shocked. More importantly, she was an expert at the 8th level of the Supreme Power Realm. Feng Wu was not very old. She was only 21 or 22 years old. How did she do it? When Qin Zongheng broke through the bottleneck of the Supreme Power Realm at the age of 18, he was praised as a rare martial arts genius. Yi Qing reached the 6th level of the Supreme Power Realm at the age of 28 with the help of her master. If her cultivation was completely based on cultivation, then her aptitude was too amazing, wasn't it? As a Supreme Power Master at the 8th level, Feng Wu immediately noticed Qin Haodong's gaze on her, but she didn't know that her cultivation had been seen through. She thought that he was just shocked by her appearance like ordinary people, so she didn't care at all. Su Hongba introduced them to each other and briefly told them about the matters to pay attention to in the exchange meeting. Then they walked to the front desk together. When they went to the stage, the 5 members of the delegation of Koryo were already in place. They sat there according to the seats prepared in advance. The leader was an arrogant old man who looked about 60 years old. He was the head of the delegation of Koryo, a visiting professor of Koryo Medical College, and also known as the medical sage, Li Minte. Next to him was a young man in his 30s. He was his son, Li Zhongqi. He was known as the medical sage in Koryo and also taught at Koryo Medical College. Next to the father and son sat 3 students of Koryo Medical College. In the middle was a very beautiful girl. According to Kim Ji-hyun, this girl was called Kim Siyuan, a famous medical genius in Koryo Medical College. It was rumored that her medical skills were even better than that of the young doctor, Li Zhongqi. There were also 2 male students, Lin Yongzheng and Song Dongxiu. However, compared with the dazzling Kim Siyuan, the 2 of them seemed a little dull. On such a small stage, the 3 top beauties, Feng Wu, Kim Siyuan, and Su Hui, immediately made the male students watching on both sides excited. Originally, they just came to cheer for their college, but they didn't expect to have such an unexpected harvest. All of them suddenly felt as if they had been injected with chicken blood and were extremely excited. At this moment, the principal, Ho Wenbin, led a beautiful woman with blonde hair and blue eyes to the stage. This woman was tall and about 180 meters tall, about the same height as Ho Wenbin. The most outstanding thing about her was her sexy figure. European women still had a unique advantage in this aspect. 2 towering peaks almost broke through the restraint of the bra. The miniskirt seemed to be unable to wrap around the perky buttocks. With the 2 long legs as a foil, they were incomparably eye-catching when they walked. After getting on the stage, Ho Wenbin introduced her to everyone. This is Miss Alice, the president of the World Medical Association. This time, she specially came to Huaxia to be a guest of our medical exchange. Please applaud and welcome her. After a warm applause, Alice said to the people of Shanghai Medical College and Koryo Medical College, I'm very curious about traditional Chinese medicine and Koryo medicine. This time, I want to deepen my understanding of these 2 medical skills through your cultural exchange. Also, if there's anything you need me to do, just let me know. After that, she looked at the people of Shanghai Medical College and finally fixed her eyes on Qin Haodong. She said, You must be Qin Haodong, who is known as the medical sage of Huaxia. I'm glad to see you here. James just called me and said that you would attend today's cultural exchange. I want to see how amazing your medical skills are. Alice added the word, medical sage, in front of the medical sage of Huaxia, which was obviously provocative. It seemed that as James had said, the president of the World Medical Association did not agree with traditional Chinese medicine, nor did she agree with him, the medical sage. Qin Haodong smiled and said, Miss Alice, welcome to Huaxia. I believe you won't be disappointed. After hearing the conversation between the 2 of them, the audience in the stands burst into an uproar. They had also realized that Qin Haodong's name was the same as the medical sage's, but they just thought it was just the same name. Who would have thought that the medical sage would come to the medical college as a freshman? Now it seemed that Qin Haodong was the famous medical sage in the field of traditional Chinese medicine. As for why he came to Shanghai Medical College, it was no longer important. What everyone was interested in was what kind of performance this medical sage would bring to them next. Whether he was worthy of his reputation or not, they would know after seeing him. Li Mingtai snorted coldly. Obviously, he was extremely dissatisfied with the title of medical sage of Qin Haodong. He said to Alice, "President, we invited you to be a guest this time because we want you to be a witness. When we exchange medical skills later, we need you to be a judge." Before the exchange began, his words were already full of gunpowder. In fact, everyone knew in their hearts that the so-called exchange was more like a challenge. Alice said with a smile, "I'm willing to serve you. I can't wait." After arranging for her to sit in the guest seat, Ho Wenbin stepped down from the stage. The exchange officially began, and the cameras under the stage were all aimed at the people on the stage. Li Mingtai glanced at the representatives of Shanghai Medical College, sneered, and then said, "In fact, I only want to elaborate on one topic in this cultural exchange. Just like the paper I published a few days ago, I think that Koryo medicine is broad and profound. Chinese medicine in Huaxia was originally a branch of Koryo medicine. I don't know what the teachers and students here think." The students watching did not know the real purpose of the delegation of Koryo medicine this time. After hearing Li Mingtai's words, they immediately became excited. If it weren't for the teachers at the scene to maintain order, there would have been a riot immediately. Ridiculous. The first to respond was another leading teacher of Shanghai Medical College, another professor of the School of Chinese Medicine, Fang Heluan, who was as famous as Su Hongba. He said angrily, "Chinese medicine belongs to Huaxia people. How can your small Koryo medicine be compared to it?" Chapter 580. Fang Heluan's temper was obviously more irritable. At this moment, he was so angry that his beard was twitching and his breathing was much heavier. Even his hands were trembling. Li Mingtai sneered and said, "Teacher, we are having an academic exchange today, not shouting slogans or bickering. If you want to refute my point of view, you can give me your evidence." Fang Heluan forced himself to calm down and said, "Chinese medicine has a history of thousands of years in Huaxia. Since the birth of the Huaxia people, Chinese medicine has been around. Chinese medicine was born in primitive society. During the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period, the theory of Chinese medicine had basically taken shape. As a professor of traditional Chinese medicine, Fang Heluan's knowledge was very profound. From the birth of traditional Chinese medicine to the present, he talked incessantly, quoting classics and quoting classics. When he finished, the audience applauded warmly. However, Li Mingtai shook his head and said, "You've been talking nonsense for a long time. There's nothing substantial. You said that Huaxia culture has been around for 5,000 years, but I can say that Koryo culture has been around for 6,000 years. These empty words are useless. You claim that TKM originated from TCM, but what proof do you have?" Fang Heluan blushed and said, "Do we still need evidence? Everyone in Huaxia knows it." After he said this, Alice, who was next to him, giggled. After laughing, she shook her head, obviously disagreeing with this statement. In the Western philosophy, everything had to be based on evidence. It was difficult for her to agree with a viewpoint without evidence as a basis. In contrast, Su Hongba was much calmer. He looked at Li Mingtai and said, "Professor Li, you just said that Chinese medicine came from Koryo medicine. What evidence do you have?" Li Mingtai said, "Of course I have evidence. Among the Chinese medicine practitioners in Huaxia, Li Shizhen is a sage, but Li Shizhen is from Koryo. This is my evidence." "Bullshit, Li Shizhen is a Huaxia man. When did he become a Koryo man? You're so shameless. Why don't you say that the whole world belongs to you? Li Shizhen is from Huaxia, and the Compendium of Materia Medica is also from Huaxia. It has nothing to do with you, the audience on the stage was agitated, and they all condemned Li Mingtai. But the old guy seemed to have expected the situation in front of him. He was not moved at all and looked at Su Hongbo with a sneer. Su Hongbo suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Professor Li, you can't say that. Li Shizhen is a Huaxia man. When did he become a Koryo man? Li Shizhen was originally from Koryo. Later, he came to Hubei of Huaxia to spread the culture and stayed for a period of time. He taught you a lot of medical things." Su Hongbo said, "Professor Li, you just said that everything needs evidence. You said that Li Shizhen is from Koryo. What evidence do you have?" "Of course I have evidence." Li Mingtai said proudly, "The surname Li is a big surname in our country, so Li Shizhen is from our country. Our Li family is the descendant of Li Shizhen, and it's precisely because of our medical inheritance and outstanding genes that our Li family's descendants have such outstanding achievements in the medical field," holding up the banner of TKM. "A bunch of nonsense. This is utter nonsense." Zhang Heluan, who had a bad temper, almost jumped up in anger. Su Hongbo was also so angry that his face turned red. Although he was mentally prepared in advance, he did not expect that Li Mingtai would use this as a reason. Qin Haodong was also shocked by this magical theory. Yesterday, he heard from Kim Ji-hyun that the delegation of Koryo was going to make a fuss about Li Shizhen, but he did not expect that it would be like this. He really didn't know what these people of Koryo were thinking. Last night, he saw a well-known scholar of Koryo put forward 3 pieces of evidence to prove that Confucius was from Koryo. The first piece of evidence was that people of Koryo believed that Jizi in the Shang dynasty was the ancestor of Koryo. Jizi was from Shandong, and Confucius was also from Shandong, so Confucius was from Koryo. The second piece of evidence was that people of Koryo often worshipped Confucius, so Confucius was from Koryo. The third piece of evidence was even more absurd. They even made up a Tanjun who had lived for 1908 years. It was said that this magical figure had conquered the entire central plains of Huaxia, so Confucius was from Koryo. Last night, he was shocked by these 3 pieces of evidence. He did not expect that Li Mingtai would give such a shocking statement now. He said, "You said that Li is from Koryo?" Since it was a cultural exchange, students were allowed to speak. Li Mingtai glanced at Qin Haodong and said proudly, "Of course, Li Shizhen's surname is Li, so he is the ancestor of our Li family." Qin Haodong said, "Then there is another famous person in the history of Huaxia. His name is Li Lianying. Why don't you say that he is the ancestor of your family? As long as his surname is Li, he is the ancestor of our Li family." The one who spoke was Li Mingtai's son, Li Junqi. This guy obviously did not know much about the history of Huaxia. He thought that as long as it was a famous person, it would be right. But after he finished speaking, he found that the audience, who had been excited, suddenly burst into laughter. Some people even laughed so hard that they could not stand up straight. Even Feng Wu's holy face showed a smile. He realized that he had said something wrong. He turned to look at his father and asked in a low voice, "Father, did I say something wrong? Who is Li Lianying?" "Shut up." Li Mingtai was so angry that his face turned livid. He wanted to strangle his brainless son. He often studied the history of Huaxia, so he naturally knew that Li Lianying was the most famous eunuch. How could a eunuch be the ancestor of the Li family? He turned around and said angrily to Qin Haodong, "What you said is an insult to our Li family." Qin Haodong said unhurriedly, "But you just said that Li Shizhen is the ancestor of the Li family, which is also an insult to Li Shizhen." After he finished speaking, there was another round of warm applause. Ji Fubao and Tian Boguang began to cheer in the front row. Their boss was still the best. He turned the passive situation around and helped them vent their anger. Li Mingtai said angrily, "Li Shizhen is the ancestor of our Li family. There is evidence." After that, he waved his hand to the audience and said, "Bring the evidence up." Below the stage, a man from Koryo handed him a beautifully packaged brocade box. The scene immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were focused on the brocade box. They didn't know what was inside. What could prove that Li Shizhen was from Koryo? Li Mingtai opened the brocade box and carefully took out a simple thread-bound book from it. Look, this is my evidence. Qin Haodong and the others looked at the book. There were 4 simple ancient Huaxia characters. Su Hongba said, "This is our Huaxia book." What can it prove? Your Huaxia book? Then why is it in my hands? A sarcastic smile appeared on Li Mingtai's face and he said, Li Shizhen was originally from Koryo. During the Ming dynasty, he came to Huaxia to spread medical skills. He deliberately brought this book to Huaxia, and this is the original copy of our country. Fang Heluan said, "Nonsense. This book was passed from our country to your country. How could it become your book?" Su Hongba said, "Professor Li, can you lend me this book?" "Yes, but it's hard to find the only copy. You must be careful not to damage it." As Li Mingtai spoke, he carefully handed the compendium of Materia Medica to Sun Hongba. Su Hongba gently opened the book and saw that there were ancient Huaxia characters on the yellowish pages. "Professor Li, you said that this book was produced in your country. Then why are all the ancient Huaxia characters used in it? Doesn't it mean that this book was passed from Huaxia to your country?" Li Mingtai seemed to have been prepared. He shook his head and said, "There have been many capable people in our country since ancient times. It's normal for a few of them to be proficient in ancient Huaxia characters. This book is used to spread medical skills to Huaxia. Is it strange that it was translated into Huaxia characters?" Su Hongba was speechless for a while in the face of such a rogue. Su Hui said, "This is no great evidence. Huaxia also has it. How can it prove that it is from your country?" Li Mingtai seemed to be waiting for this question. He said proudly, "Your book is different from this one. This is the original copy." After being identified by our country's archaeologist, Mr. Cho Hongxiang, this book is an antique. It was produced in the 15th century, which is the middle and late period of your Ming dynasty. Now this ancient book is in our country, which proves that it came from our country. Li Shizhen happens to be from our country, so he knows that traditional Chinese medicine is also from our country. If you don't accept it, you can take out the one from the same period. Of course, it has to be identified by Mr. Cho Hongxiang. After he finished speaking, everyone was silent. Although Li Mingtai's point of view was still absurd, it was much more logical than before. The most important thing was that after the war in the later period, although it was barely passed down, it was all hand-copied or replicas in the later period. There was no original copy from the Ming dynasty. Su Hongba and Fang Heluan looked at each other and saw the complicated expressions in each other's eyes. There was nervousness, helplessness, and even a trace of embarrassment. Although they had made sufficient mental preparations before, Li Mingtai's move was still beyond their expectations. Although everyone knew that it belonged to Huaxia, the original copy was in Li Mingtai's hands. Moreover, it had been 500 or 600 years. There was no evidence to investigate this kind of unsettled case. How could they explain it clearly? Looking at the camera hanging in front of him, Su Hongba became more and more nervous. He couldn't solve this dilemma, so he could only look at Qin Haodong for help. He didn't know if this young man, who was known as the medical sage, would have a way to deal with it. Please bookmark this site to read the latest news. Chapter 581. Qin Haodong had already read through the compendium of Materia Medica in front of him. There was rich spiritual qi on it. Even if it was not the original copy of the compendium of Materia Medica, it was from the era of the Ming dynasty. However, for some reason, it ended up in Koryo and finally fell into the hands of Li Mingtai. It was no different from a hooligan who took other people's things and said it was his own. But he had traveled in the cultivation world for 500 years. He had seen all kinds of things, and what kind of hooligans had he not met? He could be reasonable, but he had 100 ways to deal with Emperor Greenwood's hooliganism. He signaled Su Hongba with his eyes not to be nervous, and then said to Li Mingtai, "This is indeed the original copy of the compendium of Materia Medica, but it belongs to Huaxia and has nothing to do with your country. Lee Junki had just been fooled by him, and now he finally seized the opportunity to take revenge. He shouted, "It's in our hands. Why do you say it belongs to you?" Qin Haodong said, "Because you borrowed it from Huaxia." Ha 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 ha. Lee Junki laughed arrogantly and said, "Borrowed it? Why don't you say that we stole it?" Su Hongba and Zhang Heluan also showed puzzled expressions. They didn't know what Qin Haodong was going to do. It was obvious that these people had come to play hooligans. How could they admit that they had borrowed it? All the audience present fixed their eyes on the handsome young man's face, waiting to see how he would give an answer. There's no evidence for stealing, but there's an IOU for borrowing. Qin Haodong said, "Just last night, I saw the IOU for borrowing this compendium of materia medica from the Great Ming Dynasty." As soon as he said this, the audience immediately became restless. Really? Was this book really borrowed from Huaxia? Since the medical sage said it, he should have his reasons. I choose to believe him. These people are so hateful. They obviously borrowed it from us, but they said it was their own. They didn't expect that Huaxia still has an IOU, did they? Li Junqi's expression changed greatly and he shouted, "That's impossible. How can there be an IOU for something hundreds of years?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "The things you borrowed have been intact for hundreds of years. Are you allowed to borrow things without returning them? Are we not allowed to keep the IOUs?" Li Junqi still wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Li Minte. He turned to look at Qin Haodong and asked solemnly, "You said you saw the IOU of the Compendium of Materia Medica?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course. Not only is there an IOU from the Compendium of Materia Medica, but there is also a letter from Koryo to Huaxia, begging the Celestial Empire of Huaxia to help your small states and relieve the pain of your people." Hearing the sarcasm in Qin Haodong's words, Li Minte's expression changed drastically. "That's impossible. Show me the evidence." "Of course there is evidence. Su Hui's grandfather is an archaeology professor in the Department of History of Shanghai University. I saw this IOU from him." Qin Haodong stared at him with burning eyes and said, "If I take out the receipt, should you return what you borrowed?" After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes fell on Li Minte's face, and thousands of spectators immediately shouted excitedly, "Return it! Return it!" Facing such strong pressure of public opinion and the camera in front of him, Li Minte finally felt a little embarrassed. He said, "If you can take out the IOU, we will naturally return it, but your IOU must be examined by Mr. Choi Hongxiang to confirm that it is real." The reason why he said this was that, on the one hand, he was under the pressure of public opinion. On the other hand, he did not believe that Qin Haodong could really take out the IOU. "Well, wait a moment. We'll be back soon." Qin Haodong took Su Hui's hand and left the venue. Therefore, because of the IOU, the exchange meeting was suspended. However, no one left. They were all looking forward to when Qin Haodong could get back the IOU of the Compendium of Materia Medica. After going out of the door, Su Hui took Qin Haodong's hand and asked, "When did you see the IOU in my grandfather's house?" "Why didn't I see it?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "There's no such thing. I didn't see it anywhere." "How can this be?" Su Hui said nervously, "Do you know that it was broadcast live in front of all the people in Huaxia? Even Koryo was broadcasting it. What if you can't take out the IOU? Are you going to admit that the Compendium of Materia Medica is theirs? Li Shizhen is theirs? Traditional Chinese medicine is theirs?" Qin Haodong pulled Su Hui into the car. The original Mercedes-Benz SUV had been destroyed by the explosion. This was a new car chosen from the Zheng family, a top-grade Land Rover. As he drove, he said, "Don't worry, it's not a big deal. If you don't have an IOU, just make one. These people obviously came to our territory to play hooligans. Since they are hooligans, we should be more hooligans than them." Su Hui said anxiously, "But the IOU they want is an antique. How can it be so easy to make? Even if you can imitate it, they have antique appraisal experts over there. It's easy to recognize it." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Don't worry. I can still do such a small thing. I'm sure they won't find out." But Su Hui was still a little worried. Qin Haodong said, "Don't say, but now. Do you have a better way?" No, Su Hui didn't say anything. She thought of the scene just now. If Qin Haodong hadn't used this method, he wouldn't have been able to deal with Li Minti's provocation. "Since there's no other way, trust me. I won't let you down." Lu Qigong's home was not far from the Shanghai Medical College. With Qin Haodong's proficient driving skills, they arrived at his home in less than 5 minutes. After they entered the house, Lu Qigong happened to be resting at home. He was practicing calligraphy in the study. When he saw the two of them, he said, "Isn't today the day of the cultural exchange meeting? Why are you two here?" Qin Haodong briefly told him what had happened and then said, "Mr. Lu, lend me your pen and ink. I'll make an IOU." Turning around, he said to Su Hui, "Go find a carrot, then turn on the computer and find the picture of yesterday's letter of credence. I'll see what the seal of the King of Koryo looks like and then make one according to it." At this point, Su Hui could only cooperate unconditionally. She rushed into the kitchen and grabbed a big carrot from Zhu Dongmei's hand, which was about to be cut. After hearing what he said, Lu Qigong opened his mouth wide for a long time. When he saw Qin Haodong spread out the paper, he came to his senses and said, "You kid, you're making trouble. Antiques are historical. How can they be forged so easily?" Apart from other things, all the credence letters of that period were written by Pu Dejian. His handwriting is unique. Can you learn it? As he spoke, he anxiously paced back and forth on the ground. How about this? After all, this old man has been immersed in calligraphy for 40 to 50 years. I can barely learn Pu Dejian's calligraphy. I'll write this note for you. Whether you can get away with it or not will depend on your luck. But when he turned around, he suddenly stood there in a daze, as if he had been frozen. He saw Qin Haodong put the brush in his hand aside, and a piece of calligraphy had been written. Although the ink on the paper was not dry, each of the words was vigorous and vigorous. The most important thing was that it was exactly the same as what Pu Dejian had written. If there were no one else in the room, he would have thought that Pu Dejian had been reborn. Qin Haodong pointed to the receipt that had just been written on the table and said, "Sir, what do you think of my handwriting?" "That's great. That's great. It's so good. It's so fake." No. It can't be called fake at all. It's exactly the same as what Pu Dagan wrote. Lu Qigong looked at the words in front of him and asked in amazement, "Little Qin, how did you do it?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "It's nothing. I've sold calligraphy and paintings of scholars for a few years. When I'm free, I'll write one." "Amazing, you're really amazing." Lu Qigong looked at this piece of calligraphy and was amazed. He had been immersed in calligraphy for decades, but he could never reach Qin Haodong's level. He was far from it. Not only him, but probably no one in Huaxia could imitate Pu Dejian's handwriting to this extent. The most important thing was that it only took Qin Haodong 1 or 2 minutes to do it. Here comes the radish. At this time, Su Hui came in with a big red radish. Qin Haodong took the radish and raised his hand to pick up the fruit knife next to him. He glanced at the photo of the letter of credence on the computer screen and turned his wrist. The fruit knife flew up and down, and it took him less than a minute to carve a seal. He took the big seal carved by the radish, dipped it on the stamp table next to him, and then printed it on the lower corner of the receipt. "It's done." Lu Qigong craned his neck to take a look and was once again dumbfounded. He was an expert in archaeology and had amazing eyesight. If he hadn't seen the big seal carved by Qin Haodong with the radish, he would have thought that it was the seal of the Koryo nation. He was unwilling to give up, so he took the magnifying glass next to him. The result was still the same. Except that the ink was not dry, he couldn't find any flaws. He felt that he was about to collapse. He asked with a stiff expression, "Little Qin, how did you do it?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, it's nothing. I learned cooking for a few years in my spare time. I'm good at carving. Su Hui also sighed and said, I'm really curious. Is there anything you can't do? Yes. Qin Haodong said thoughtfully, it seems that I can't do things like giving birth. Su Hui glared at him coquettishly and said, you're not serious. Lu Qigong came to his senses and said, Little Qin, although your calligraphy is flawless and the seal is perfect, it's fake after all. Chapter 582. Su Hui also looked at Qin Haodong, and there was worry on her smiling face. Everything was so perfect, but a fake was a fake after all, and it couldn't be compared with the real thing in any case. It's nothing. I just need to deal with it. Qin Haodong took the written receipt and rolled it into a scroll. He filled his palm with green with genuine qi and gently wiped it. When he opened it again, everything changed. The xian paper, which was as white as snow just a moment ago, had become extremely dim, as if it had been eroded by countless years. The words and seals on the xian paper had also become dull, without any new marks. The entire scroll seemed to exude a simple and unadorned aura. It's done this time. What do you think, Mr. Qin? Qin Haodong said and put the receipt in front of Lu Qigong again. At this time, Lu Qigong's face was dull, his lips were trembling, and his outstretched hands were also trembling. He took the scroll that Qin Haodong had just made in his hand and looked at the note in front of him. His eyes were filled with shock, extreme shock. He was an authority in the Department of Archaeology and an expert in this field all over the country. The letter that had just been taken out of Wei Zhongxian's tomb was personally identified by him. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find any flaws in the fake that Qin Haodong had just made. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have really thought that it was an antique that had been excavated from the tomb. Qin Haodong didn't stay idle. When Lu Qigong was shocked, he made another letter from Koryo to the Ming dynasty. The two things were more convincing when they were put together. When he was done, Lu Qigong came back to his senses from the shock. Looking back at the handsome young man, he felt that his outlook on life had collapsed. What kind of genius was he? He couldn't find any flaws in the antique that he made casually. Little Qin, how did you do it? Lu Qigong asked this somewhat naive question again. Qin Haodong said with a smile, haven't you seen it? The handwriting is good, the carrot is good, and I've been selling fake antiques for several years. That's it. Lu Qigong couldn't help asking, what the hell do you do? Aren't you a doctor? Why have you been doing everything for several years? Being a doctor is my main job, and other things are my hobbies. Qin Haodong said with a smile, well, the old man is still waiting for us. We have to go back as soon as possible. Wait a minute, I'll go with you and have a look. Lu Qigong followed them into the car. He was curious to see how Qin Haodong would play tricks on these Koryo people. When the three of them reappeared in the auditorium of the Shanghai Medical College, the audience immediately became restless. Everyone's eyes fell on the two scrolls in Qin Haodong's hands. Seeing that Qin Haodong was really holding something in his hand, Li Mingtai immediately became nervous. Could it be that what this young man said was true? Did Koryo really give the Ming dynasty an IOU? Qin Haodong's thought. Li Junqi said in a low voice, Father, I guess the thing in this kid's hand must be fake. Fortunately, we brought Mr. Cho Hong Song, an antique appraisal expert. He will definitely see through this kid's trick. Li Mingtai nodded. In order to prove that his compendium of materia medica was authentic at the cultural exchange meeting, he specially invited Choi Hongxiang, an authoritative figure in antique appraisal in Koryo. As soon as the father and son said this, Cui Hongqing, who was sitting in the audience, stood up and quickly walked up to Qin Haodong. He said respectfully to the old man beside him, Teacher, why are you here? When they got outside, Lu Qigong was still an expert. He nodded slightly and said, It's okay. I just came to have a look. It turned out that Cho Hongxiang used to be a graduate student at Shanghai University and a student of Lu Qigong. 80% of his antique appraisal skills were learned from him. Li Zhengxiang said, "What's going on? How does Mr. Cho know that old man?" Li Mingtai said, "Don't worry about it. Mr. Cho Hongxiang has always been known for his fairness. Even we can't affect the result of his appraisal." Lu Qigong thought for a moment and said to Cho Hongxiang, "Come with us. We may need your appraisal later." He knew that Koryo would not easily believe Qin Haodong's words, so they would definitely appraise this IOU. The four of them went on the stage together. Qin Haodong said to Li Mingtai, "I've brought it." Turning around, he said to Alice, "President Alice, please be a witness." Su Hongba and Fong Heluan also looked at Qin Haodong's hand. They looked nervous, worried, and excited. After that, he put the scroll in his hand on the table and slowly opened it. The cameraman who was doing the live broadcast next to him quickly turned the camera around, for fear of missing a single detail. After unfolding the scroll, Qin Haodong said, "This is the letter from your country to the Ming dynasty. Professor Li, with your research on the compendium of Materia Medica, you should know these ancient Huaxia characters, right?" Li Mingtai looked at the scroll with a serious expression. He was indeed proficient in ancient Huaxia characters, so he soon understood the content. The general idea was that the medical skills of Koryo were backward. They begged the Ming dynasty to lend them medical works such as the compendium of Materia Medica to help the people of Koryo relieve their pain. If this letter was true, it meant two things. First, Koryo was a dependent country of the Ming dynasty. Second, they borrowed the compendium of Materia Medica from Huaxia. Qin Haodong opened the second scroll and said, "Look at it again. This is the IOU for borrowing the compendium of Materia Medica." Li Mingtai looked over. It was indeed a IOU, indicating that Koryo had borrowed the compendium of Materia Medica and other medical works of the Ming dynasty. This can't be true. As a doctor, he knew very well who the compendium of Materia Medica belonged to, but he was sure that Huaxia would not leave any relevant evidence. There was no way to prove that the compendium of Materia Medica came from Huaxia. He never dreamed that this young man would make an IOU. Qin Haodong said unhurriedly, "Professor Li, didn't you bring an expert here? You can ask him to identify it." Li Mingtai turned to look at Choi Hongxiang and said, "Mr. Choi, this thing must be fake. Please identify it." Choi Hongxiang said, "I can identify antiques, but I'm only responsible for the identification. I won't participate in your debate. And before I give you the result, please don't jump to conclusions." Li Mingtai smiled awkwardly. This stubborn guy didn't save him any face in front of so many people. "Mr. Choi, you're right. Whether it's true or not, it depends on your identification results." Choi Hongxiang nodded and turned to Lu Qigong and said, "Teacher, why don't you come with me?" Lu Qigong shook his head and said, "This is a Huaxia thing, and it's also my collection. It's not convenient for me to identify it. It's better for you to do it. Teacher, your character is my role model. I've been working hard to learn from you all these years." Then Choi Hongxiang took out the white gloves, magnifying glass and other tools he carried with him and began to identify it. Lu Qigong had a good reputation in the field of antique identification. He was fair and did not show favoritism. Choi Hongxiang had inherited this quality in Koryo. He was meticulous in the identification of antiques and would not let any reason affect his conclusion. Even if it was Lu Qigong's collection, if he thought it was fake, he would point it out in public without any hesitation. He came to the two scrolls and began to look at them carefully. When he saw the handwriting on the scrolls, he immediately exclaimed, "My God, this is the authentic work of Mr. Pu Daegun." Li Mingtai had a bad feeling and asked, "Mr. Choi, are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure." Choi Hongxiang said solemnly, "Mr. Pu Daegun is a master of calligraphy in our country. I've taken him as my idol since I was a child. I've studied his calligraphy for many years. His calligraphy is not only strong and powerful, but also light and elegant. It's very spiritual and unique. I believe that no one else in the world can write this kind of calligraphy. There is a painting of Mr. Pu Daegun hanging in my room, which is exactly the same as the words on it. I'm sure that this is definitely the authentic work of Mr. Pu Daegun. No one else can copy it. Cough. 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 Lu Qigong coughed violently and almost choked to death by his own saliva. If his students knew that Qin Haodong had only spent a few minutes to write this piece of calligraphy, what would they think? Choi Hongxiang turned to look at him and asked, "Teacher, is there anything wrong with what I said?" "Yes. Yes. Yes. You're right. I've just caught a cold these days and coughed a little." Although Lu Qigong was a fair person, the compendium of Materia Medica originally belonged to Huaxia. Of course, he would not be so stubborn. Otherwise, he would not have followed them. After getting his teacher's affirmation, Choi Hongxiang was excited and continued to identify it. When he saw the seal below, he exclaimed again, "This is the national seal of Koryo." In ancient times, only very important documents were used. I can guarantee with my head that this is absolutely authentic. Cough. 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 Lu Qigong coughed violently again. His disciple really dared to say anything. He even put his head on the seal that was dug out by a big radish. This time, even Su Hui, who had always been quiet, showed a smile on her face. If it weren't for the fact that her grandfather couldn't identify it, she would really think that the antique appraisal expert of Koryo was a fake. But now it seemed that it was obviously not true. It could only show that Qin Haodong's technique was so brilliant that it was almost to the realm of passing off the fake as the real one. He used a radish to deceive the two experts of Huaxia and Koryo. Of course, Choi Hongxiang didn't know this. He turned his head and said, "Teacher, I know you are very dedicated, but you must pay more attention to your health." "I will." Lu Qigong covered his mouth and said. Choi Hongxiang turned around and carefully identified the two scrolls again. After a full 10 minutes, he raised his head and said, "My appraisal results are out." Chapter 583. Hearing the result of the appraisal, everyone's eyes were focused on Choi Hongxiang. Many people present were nervous. They didn't know if the appraiser brought by Koryo would be partial to their own people. Choi Hongxiang didn't care about this and continued, "Mr. Daejian is the most famous diplomat in our country more than 500 years ago. He has superb calligraphy, which can be said to be his own style. After my appraisal just now, this letter and this IOU were both written by Mr. Daejian, and they are also stamped with the seal of our country's king. In addition to these 2 points, these 2 scrolls are antique and the traces of carving are obvious. I'm sure that they are antiques from more than 500 years ago. In conclusion, I'm sure that this letter and this IOU are authentic." Cough. 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 Lu Qigong coughed even more violently this time. Antiques from more than 500 years ago were obviously made by Qin Haodong in less than 5 minutes. However, he didn't dare to tell his apprentice about this in his life. Otherwise, it might completely destroy Choi Hongxiang's belief in antique appraisal. After hearing this result, the audience in the whole venue cheered. They didn't expect that Qin Haodong would really take out the IOU of the compendium of Materia Medica. Now they could return it to its original owner. Li Mingte looked incredulous and said with a pale face, "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Mr. Choi, did you see it wrong?" Choi Hongxiang's face darkened and he said in a cold voice, "Professor Li, you can deny it. You can refuse to return the compendium of Materia Medica, but you can't insult my profession and my appraisal results. I can guarantee with my identity as an appraiser that these 2 things are authentic. As for whether you will return the compendium of Materia Medica or not, that's a matter of your personal credit." Qin Haodong was overjoyed. This guy was really interesting. Not only did he give him the result he wanted, but he also helped him. Now, under the watchful eyes of the public, he was afraid that Li Mingte couldn't go back on his word even if he wanted to. Su Hui's face was strange. In her opinion, Qin Haodong had conquered this man with a carrot. Don't deny it. You have to return the things you borrowed. Hurry up and return the compendium of Materia Medica to us. Your appraiser said that the IOU is authentic. What reason do you have not to return it? Li, do you want to go back on your word in front of the whole world? Li Minte looked at the excited audience, looked at Alice, whose eyes were shining next to him, and then looked at the camera above his head. Although he was extremely reluctant to return the compendium of Materia Medica, he was finally under pressure and said with difficulty, I repeat what I said. This compendium of Materia Medica will be returned to Huaxia. After that, he reluctantly pushed the compendium of Materia Medica to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong took the ancient book and handed it to Lu Qigong. Old master, please hand it to the country for me. Lu Qigong held the original copy of the compendium of Materia Medica and said excitedly, Little Qin, I thank you on behalf of all the Huaxia people. He knew the value of this book. If it was taken to the auction, it could be sold for at least hundreds of millions or even billions. It was really commendable that Qin Haodong could return such a valuable thing to the country without hesitation. Hooray, our things are finally back, good job. The holy doctor is a good man. The compendium of Materia Medica belongs to Huaxia. Li Shizhen belongs to Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine. It belongs to Huaxia, seeing that the treasure that had been passed down in his family for many generations was taken away just like that. Li Minte's face was pale and his heart was bleeding. He had thought that his strategy was foolproof, but he didn't expect that it would be easily destroyed by the young man in front of him, and he even lost the original copy of the compendium of Materia Medica. Qin Haodong looked at him and said with a smile, Professor Li, since the book has been returned, this receipt is yours. Take it away. This is an old object from 500 or 600 years ago. If you take it out to auction, you can sell it for a lot of money. Looking at the two scrolls in front of him, Li Minte didn't know what to feel in his heart. This was a mockery of him and the entire Koryo. If this thing was spread out, it could only prove that Koryo used to be a vassal of Huaxia, and Koryo medicine originated from Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine. Therefore, no matter what, he would not take these two things out to auction. After the appraisal, Lu Qigong and Choi Hongxiang walked off the stage together and sat in the audience seat next to them. The debate on the stage continued. As the leading teacher and the person in charge today, Su Hongba was beaming with joy at this time. He was extremely proud. Fortunately, he had the foresight to bring the medical sage to this exchange meeting today. Otherwise, this big trouble would be really difficult to solve. Maybe he would lose face in front of the whole world. He looked at Li Minte with a smile and said, Professor Li, now the truth is out. The compendium of Materia Medica belongs to Huaxia, and Li Shizhen also belongs to Huaxia. From this, it seems that traditional Chinese medicine was also spread from Huaxia to Koryo. What else do you have to say? Li Minte had calmed down at this time. After all, the debate had just begun, and he still had other trump cards that he hadn't used yet. Professor Su, it's just a book. It can't explain so many things. Su Hongba said, do you have other evidence to prove that traditional Chinese medicine came from Koryo? Of course. Li Minte said plausibly, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine or Koryo medicine, it's all about acupuncture. Among these 4 words, needle ranks first, which shows the importance of acupuncture. And now I can prove that acupuncture came from our country. Su Hongba frowned. As everyone knew, acupuncture was a part of traditional Chinese medicine. How could it be from Koryo? He said, Professor Li, you can't talk nonsense. What evidence do you have? Of course I have evidence. Li Minte said and shouted to the audience, bring it up. After receiving his order, several young people from Koryo Medicine University carried a heavy wooden box to the stage. Everyone was very curious. This box looked so heavy. They didn't know what was inside. What did it have to do with acupuncture? They put the box in the middle of the stage, and then removed the outer packaging. A simple and magnificent bronze statue appeared in front of everyone. Su Hongba and Fong Heluan suddenly stood up, and Lu Qigong, who was under the stage, was also shocked. He exclaimed, This is the acupuncture statue. Li Mingte glanced at Su Hongba and said proudly, Yes, this is the acupuncture statue produced by our country. It has a history of about 500 or 600 years. This is the crystallization of our country's Koryo medicine, and it's also the best proof of our great achievements in acupuncture. Nonsense. Fong Heluan shouted, Everyone knows that this acupuncture statue belongs to our Huaxia. In the 5th year of Tiansheng in the northern Song dynasty, Emperor Renzong of Song ordered Hanlin Academy medical officer Wang to make an acupuncture statue. Its height was similar to that of a normal adult. The front and back sides of the chest and back could be used to connect the internal organs. The surface of the statue was engraved with acupoints, and the names of the acupoints were engraved next to them. At the same time, the acupoints on the surface of the statue were sealed with yellow wax and water was poured into them. If the acupoints were accurately chosen, the water would flow out. If the acupoints were not chosen correctly, the needles would not be able to pierce through. In the Ming dynasty, there were also bronze statues made for acupuncture. They were ordered by Emperor Yingzong of the Ming dynasty to imitate the bronze statues of the northern Song dynasty. They were made in the 8th year of the Ming dynasty. However, due to the long passage of time and the chaos of war in the later period, these bronze statues were all lost and their whereabouts were unknown. Your bronze statue was passed down from our country. How could it be made in your country? Are you kidding me? Li Mingte said, This acupuncture statue was made by the ancestors of our Li family. It's the embodiment of the acupuncture skills of Koryo medicine. It has nothing to do with your country. As far as I know, there are similar acupuncture bronze statues in the Museum of Huaxia, but they are hundreds of years later than mine. The so-called acupuncture bronze statues in the Song dynasty are just a legend. There is no evidence at all. I guess the technology of making acupuncture bronze statues came from our Koryo Guoxue. Qin Haodong was amused. Li Mingte was really simple-minded. He took the treasure of Huaxia and then made a false accusation. Couldn't he change the method? Su Hongba said, Don't talk big. Don't you see that the acupoints on this acupuncture statue are marked with ancient Huaxia characters? So what? These are the kind ancestors of our Li family. They used Huaxia characters in order to make it convenient for you people to learn. Li Mingte sneered and said, Do you want to say that it was borrowed from your country again? If you have the ability, take out another loan receipt. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to ridicule Su Hui to express his dissatisfaction just now, but as soon as he finished speaking, he heard Qin Haodong say, Yes. 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 I really saw the loan receipt for the acupuncture statue at Mr. Lu's house just now, so I brought it here. It's in the car now. I'll go get it now. After that, he stood up and walked quickly out of the venue. Li Mingte was suddenly dumbfounded. He just said it casually, but he didn't expect that Qin Haodong really had a loan receipt. How was this possible? Had his ancestors gone mad? It was one thing to borrow things from Huaxia, but why did they leave a loan receipt for everything? Cui Hongxiang said to Lu Qigong, Teacher, is what he said true? Do you still have the loan receipt for the acupuncture statue? Where did you get such a valuable treasure? Lu Qigong was speechless. When he just came out, Qin Haodong had brought his ink, paper, and inkstone, as well as the carved radish. He said that it might be useful, but he didn't expect that it would really be useful now. He didn't get in the car to get it, but to make it. Not to mention the loan receipt for the acupuncture statue, no matter what Li Mingte took out today, as long as it belonged to Huaxia, Qin Haodong could take out the loan receipt. He smiled embarrassedly and said, I got it by chance from a street stall. Cui Hongxiang sighed and said, Huaxia is really a big country with abundant resources and a long culture. You can find such good things from a street stall. Our country can't do that. There are not many cultural relics, and there are even fewer good things that we can find. Chapter 584. Lu Qigong thought to himself, with Qin Haodong, no matter what kind of treasure it is, I don't need to go to the stall. I can make it in the kitchen at home. This time passed faster. Only 3 or 4 minutes later, Qin Haodong came in from the outside with a painting scroll. Back on the stage, he spread the painting scroll on the table and said to Li Mingtai, Professor Li, take a look. This is the receipt that Koryo borrowed from Huaxia. Do you want to invite Professor Choi to come up and check it? Li Mingtai looked at the receipt on the table. The scroll looked very simple. It was exactly the same as the one just now, but the content had been changed. The borrowing of the Compendium of Materia Medica was replaced by the borrowing of the acupuncture bronze statue, which was still stamped with the king's seal. He really couldn't figure out where this receipt came from. If it was fake, even he wouldn't believe it. Could Qin Haodong have foresight and make a fake one in advance to wait for him here? Although he knew that there was a kind of person who was good at counterfeiting antiques, it would take at least a few days or even a few months to make an antique. It was impossible to make a fake antique in a few minutes. In addition, Choi Hongxiang was famous for his stubbornness and integrity, and his antique appraisal level was also one of the best. How could he deceive his eyes? Now that the receipt was in front of him, he didn't have time to think about it. But this time, he naturally couldn't easily return the acupuncture bronze statue. There's no need to appraise it. He directly skipped the appraisal process. Qin Haodong said with a smile, since Professor Li thinks this receipt is real, shouldn't you return the acupuncture bronze statue to us? Li Mingtai's heart twitched. He had taken out a treasure, but Qin Haodong wanted to take it back with the receipt, which made him so depressed that he had the urge to vomit blood. This time, of course, he wouldn't easily return the acupuncture bronze statue. He said, even if your receipt is real, it can't prove that it's our Li family's acupuncture bronze statue that you borrowed. Of course, if I don't return it, you will definitely be unwilling and think that I'm denying it. Let's do it this way. Today, I will challenge Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine with the acupuncture bronze statue. As long as the people of Shanghai Medical College can surpass our Koryo Medical College in using the acupuncture bronze statue, I will return it to you. If you can't win, how can you claim that this thing belongs to you? It can only mean that it belongs to our Li family. At the same time, it also proves that your Chinese medical skills are inferior to our TKM. Su Hongba asked, how do you want to compete? Li Mingtai said, this acupuncture statue has 354 acupuncture points. We'll use silver needles to pierce the acupuncture points. Let's see who can finish it in the shortest time. Su Hongba couldn't help frowning. Li Mingtai's method of competition sounded extremely fair, but in fact, it contained his thoughts. This acupuncture statue had been placed in the Li family for many years, and they had practiced it countless times. Naturally, they were very familiar with it. On the other hand, in Huaxia, as the place where the acupuncture bronze statue was produced, no one had even touched the acupuncture bronze statue. The few replicas were also placed in the museum. Naturally, they were very unfamiliar with how to use them, so they were at a disadvantage. But if they didn't compete, not only would they agree with Li Mingtai's words, but they would also weaken the momentum of Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine. They didn't even dare to accept a competition. How could they say that Koryo medicine originated from Huaxia? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Qin Haodong. In this kind of competition, he and Fang Heluan were old and their bodies were not flexible enough. Naturally, they couldn't compete in speed. They could only rely on these young people, and Qin Haodong was his biggest reliance. Qin Haodong smiled and nodded at him. This kind of competition was extremely difficult for others, but it was not worth mentioning for him at all. Although he had never touched the acupuncture bronze statue, he had already figured out the structure of the acupuncture bronze statue with the powerful perception of his spirit. Even if others practiced thousands of times on this acupuncture bronze statue, they would not be able to reach his level. Seeing that he was full of confidence, Su Hongba immediately felt confident. He turned his head and said to Li Mingtai, okay, we'll take it. If you lose, remember to send the acupuncture statue back. Don't worry. A sly smile appeared on Li Mintei's face. If we lose, we'll return the acupuncture statue. But what if you lose? Do you have to take out some stakes to be fair? Su Hongba said, what do you want to bet? Li Mintei said, other things can't be compared with the acupuncture statue at all. Let's bet on the compendium of Materia Medica just now. How about it? Do you dare? This, Su Hongba's expression suddenly changed. If it was something else, he would dare to agree, but the compendium of Materia Medica was too important to Huaxia. This treasure had just been taken back by Qin Haodong. If he lost it again, he was afraid that he would become the sinner of the whole Huaxia and the sinner of traditional Chinese medicine. Li Mintei said with a sinister smile, what's wrong? Professor Su, don't you dare? Didn't you just say that traditional Chinese medicine came from Huaxia, acupuncture came from Huaxia, and the acupuncture statue came from Huaxia? Now you don't even dare to compete with the acupuncture statue. How dare you say that? Seeing his conditions, the audience present were all filled with righteous indignation and shouted together, let's bet. We'll bet with him. Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine is the best in the world. There's no need to be afraid of Koryo medicine, the acupuncture statue is ours. We must let it return to Huaxia. At this time, the live broadcast on the internet was also becoming more and more popular. More and more people gathered in front of the monitor and began to cheer for traditional Chinese medicine. The more it was like this, the more pressure Su Hongba felt. Qin Haodong saw his dilemma and said, no problem. We'll bet with you. Li Mintei said, you're just a student. Can you represent Shanghai Medical College? Can you represent Huaxia? Su Hongba took a deep breath, calmed his excited mind, and said, yes, Qin Haodong's meaning is my meaning, as well as the meaning of our Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine. We'll bet with you. If you win, you can take away the original copy of the compendium of Materia Medica. If you lose, you leave the acupuncture statue. Well, it's a deal. Li Mintei seemed to have been prepared. He took out a stopwatch from his pocket and handed it to Alice. President Alice, please be a witness for us and be a referee. Okay, it's a great honor. Alice was very excited. The bronze statue full of holes had aroused her interest. I've long heard that acupuncture is very magical. Today, I can finally see it. Li Mintei introduced the rules of the competition to her in detail, explaining what it meant to have mercury in the needle. Then the competition officially began. The first to appear was Li Junqi from Koryo. As the son of Li Mintei, he was known as the little medical sage in Koryo. He had practiced on this acupuncture statue countless times. He was extremely confident in this competition, so he was the first to rush up to show his strength. Li Junqi came to the acupuncture statue and took out a 4-inch-long needle from the needle bag. Then he took a deep breath and got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind. Then he held the silver needle upside down on his fingertips. He held the needle with his right thumb, index finger and middle finger in a steady style. As the notary and referee, Alice stood next to the acupuncture statue. When Li Junqi signaled that she was ready, she shouted, "Start." At the same time, she pressed the timer in her hand. Before that, all the muscles in Li Junqi's body were tense. After hearing the shout, he immediately pounced on the acupuncture statue like an agile leopard. He moved like lightning, and the 4-inch-long needle in his right hand pierced an acupoint of the acupuncture statue. This needle was not only fast, but also moderate. After the needle was pierced, he didn't even look at it. He picked up the needle and pierced the next acupoint again. After he pulled out the silver needle, a thin stream of mercury flowed out of the acupoint. Next, Li Junqi moved the needles like the wind, and his movements were swift. His footsteps were like butterflies arranging flowers, both beautiful and fast. The 4-inch big needle in his hand seemed to have grown eyes. Every needle was accurately inserted into the acupoints. Not a single needle hit the wall, nor did it miss. When he finished the competition and stood aside, mercury flowed out of all 354 acupoints on the acupuncture statue. Alice shouted to stop, looked at the stopwatch in her hand, and said to the crowd, "Mr. Lee Junki's time is 120 seconds." The audience present burst into an uproar. They were all medical students, so they knew how fast acupuncture was. No one expected Lee Junki to be so fast. He pierced 354 acupoints in 120 seconds, which was almost 3 needles per second. His speed was extremely fast. Although many people hated the provocative behavior of the Koreans, many people couldn't help applauding for his wonderful performance. Lee Junki put away the silver needles with a proud face. He glanced at Chin Haodong next to him and sneered, "Not everyone can be called medical sage. You have to have real skills. If you can't do what I did, you don't deserve this title at all." His father, Lee Min-tae, was called the medical sage, and he was called the little medical sage. Chin Haodong was also called the medical sage, which made him extremely dissatisfied. It seemed that he was a generation younger than him, so he took the initiative to provoke him. Chin Haodong just smiled at his provocation and didn't even pay attention to him. Not to mention Lee Junki, he didn't even take Lee Min-tae seriously. Lee Junki suddenly felt that he had punched the air, and he felt very uncomfortable. He turned around and shouted to Su Hongba and the others, "I'm done. Now it's your turn." Su Hongba frowned and whispered to Fong Heluan, who was next to him, "I didn't expect that this guy from Koryo has some skills. He can practice the acupuncture statue to this level." These two people were the masters of the School of Chinese Medicine. In contrast, Fong Heluan's acupuncture skills were better. He stood up and said, "I'll give it a try." Su Hongba said, "Why don't we let the young people have a try?" "No, I don't believe that I will lose to them." After Fong Heluan said that, he stubbornly walked toward the acupuncture statue. Chapter 585. Looking at Fong Heluan's slightly stooped figure, Su Hui whispered in Chin Haodong's ear, "What do you think of Mr. Fong? Can he beat Lee Junki?" Chin Haodong said, "Acupuncture is about the integration of body, eyes, mind and hands. Mr. Fong has been immersed in acupuncture for a lifetime and has profound attainments. Unfortunately, because of his age, his body, eyes and hands can't be compared with Lee Junki in his prime. Because of this, Lee Min-tae didn't do it himself. It's not because he disdains it, but because he can't compare with Lee Junki." Su Hui nodded and said, "What kind of result do you think Mr. Fong can achieve?" Chin Haodong said, "None of us have touched this acupuncture statue. If Mr. Fong takes it home and practices it for a month or two, it should be no problem for him to enter 3 minutes. But now he can't. I guess he can't even enter 8 minutes." While they were talking, Fong Heluan had already arrived in front of the acupuncture statue. He took out the silver needles and raised his hand to stab the acupuncture statue after Alice said, "Start." He was very accurate in recognizing the acupoints. After each needle was pierced, mercury immediately flowed out. Unfortunately, as Chin Haodong said, because of his age, the speed of his movements, the speed of his hands and the speed of his eyes couldn't be compared with Lee Junki's. If they were competing in acupuncture, he had a great chance of winning, but now they were competing in speed. After a dozen needles, he showed signs of fatigue. His speed decreased and there was a problem with the coordination of his eyes and hands. After a few crisp sounds, he stabbed the body of the bronze statue one after another. After barely stabbing more than 100 needles, the old man began to pant and sweat appeared on his forehead. When he finally stabbed all 354 acupoints, Alice stopped the timer in her hand and announced, "It took 485 seconds." After hearing this result, Fong Heluan looked disappointed. He walked back to his seat and murmured, "I'm old. I'm old after all." Su Hui said in a low voice, "Your guess is really accurate. It's only 5 seconds away. I'm going to give it a try. Guess what result I can get?" Chin Haodong said, "Your physical fitness is good enough, and your moves are fast enough. It's a pity that you have never touched the acupuncture statue. Compared with Li Junqi, you lack proficiency. It should be about 300 seconds. Su Hui said with some dissatisfaction, after taking your physique-improving pill, my physical quality is much better than that of ordinary people. Besides, I have practiced the 9 magic needles of plum blossom. I don't think I will lose. Qin Haodong smiled and said, try it and you'll know. I'll go now. Su Hui clenched her fists and walked toward the acupuncture statue after Fang Heluan walked back. She had also chosen a 4-inch needle. As soon as the competition began, her hands moved as fast as lightning, rapidly stabbing at the acupuncture statue. As she had just said, after taking the physique-improving pill, her physical fitness was much better now. Through the practice of the 9 magic needles of plum blossom, her speed was fast enough, but unfortunately, she lacked proficiency. If she was given half a month to practice, she would at least not lose to Li Junqi. Unfortunately, she couldn't do it now. In comparison, she was still much slower. When she finished stabbing 354 acupoints, Alice stopped the timer and announced, 296 seconds. Su Hui shook her head in annoyance and stepped back to Qin Haodong's side. She said dejectedly, I lost. Qin Haodong said, it's okay. You have performed very well. This is not a fair competition. I'll try. The one who spoke was Feng Wu, who had been silent. Since the beginning of the exchange meeting, she had been sitting next to Qin Haodong like a female bodhisattva. Now she was finally going to make a move. Su Hui said to Qin Haodong, what do you think of Sister Feng Wu? Will her performance be better than mine? Qin Haodong said with a smile, not only will her performance be better than yours, but she will also surpass Li Junqi. What? She's that good? Su Hui said in surprise, could it be that she has practiced the acupuncture statue? A playful smile appeared at the corner of Qin Haodong's mouth. No, but she is a master. The person in front of her was a master at the 8th level of the Supreme Power Realm. Even if she had not cultivated the spirit, even if she had not practiced the acupuncture statue, Feng Wu's superb skills could make up for it. It would not be a problem for her to defeat Li Junqi. When the competition began, Su Hui understood what Qin Haodong meant by a master. Her body movement and speed were very fast just now, but that was only relative to ordinary people. She could not be compared with Feng Wu at all. Feng Wu was wearing a long white dress today, with long black hair like a waterfall. She moved like a fairy, and her slender hands were like arranging flowers. Fast. She was too fast. Although she was still not familiar with the acupuncture statue, her speed made up for this shortcoming. If one needle couldn't do it, she could do it twice. The 2 needles added up would be faster than 1 needle. Li Junqi was proud just now, but he was immediately dumbfounded when he saw Feng Wu's performance. With this kind of speed, what would happen if she practiced on the acupuncture statue for a few days? Wouldn't he be instantly annihilated? Even so, Feng Wu still posed a huge threat to him. The further she went, the faster her speed became. The audience immediately burst into thunderous applause. Fang Heluan said to Su Hongba, Old Su, it turns out that there is such a master among our students. No wonder you dared to make this bet with Li Minte. It turns out that you have confidence in yourself. Su Hongba was also very surprised by Feng Wu's performance. He knew that this girl had a good talent in traditional Chinese medicine. Otherwise, she would not have been selected as a member of the delegation. But he had never thought that Feng Wu could be so good at martial arts and be so fast. At this moment, Feng Wu stabbed the last needle, and the 354 acupoints on the acupuncture statue all flowed out, 112 seconds. After Alice announced the result, she said to Feng Wu excitedly, Your performance is amazing. Have you learned to dance before? This kind of question was really impossible to answer. Feng Wu just smiled at her and then returned to her seat. Su Hui said excitedly, Sister Feng Wu, you are really amazing. Feng Wu still smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Li Junqi's face was no longer as proud as before. He had thought that he could completely suppress Huaxia with his martial arts skills, but he didn't expect that he would be defeated by a woman in just a few minutes. Su Hongba said to Li Mingtai, "Professor Li, what do you think? Do you want to admit defeat?" Li Mingtai was also a little surprised. After all, they were cheating in this competition. Li Junqi had to practice his acupuncture skills on the acupuncture statue every day, but he was still surpassed by Feng Wu. He said, "Don't worry. We still have people who haven't made a move yet." Su Hongba said, "Why? Is Professor Li going to fight in person?" Li Mingtai shook his head and turned to Kim Siyuan, who was sitting next to him, and said, "You do it." "Okay, teacher." Kim Siyuan answered and walked toward the acupuncture statue. Su Hui said, "Brother Haodong, why did they send another woman? Is she more powerful than Li Junqi?" "Well, this woman is very powerful, much more powerful than Li Junqi. She should be the trump card of Koryo this time." Kim Siyuan walked with light steps. She was a warrior and had reached the second level of covert power. With this kind of cultivation, medical skills, and her familiarity with the acupuncture statue, her speed would inevitably reach an amazing level. "Do you mean that she is more powerful than Sister Feng Wu?" Hearing Su Hui's question, Feng Wu glanced over with her beautiful big eyes. It seemed that she also wanted to know Qin Haodong's answer. Normally, she is not as powerful as Feng Wu, but she is very familiar with the acupuncture statue. This is their biggest advantage. Qin Haodong said very tactfully, but he also gave the answer. The implication was that Kim Siyuan was faster than Feng Wu. Feng Wu said, "What if I lose? Can you win against this woman?" While speaking, she looked at the man in front of her with burning eyes. She could feel strong confidence from Qin Haodong, but she could not feel any aura of a warrior, which made her very confused. Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Of course, I'm the medical sage of Huaxia. How can a few doctors from Koryo compare to me?" On the side of the bronze statue, Kim Siyuan had already started. In terms of movement, she was not as fast as Feng Wu just now, but she was too familiar with the acupuncture statue. She almost didn't need to look at every needle or think about it. She just needed to stab the silver needle in her hand as fast as possible. After watching for a few seconds, Feng Wu said softly, "I lost." Qin Haodong said, "It's not your fault. As long as you practice it 3 or 5 times, you will be faster than them." "What about compared to you?" "Me?" Feng Wu's question surprised Qin Haodong. He said, "We are teammates. There is no need to compare. So I'm not as fast as you?" Feng Wu's expression was very calm, but her question was aggressive. Qin Haodong said, "There is no comparison between us." "Why? Do you look down on women?" "No, I don't have the guts." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Because I'm older than you." He was telling the truth. His spirit, which had been cultivated for 500 years, was naturally not comparable to Feng Wu. However, no one could understand the hidden meaning. As she spoke, Kim Siyuan's speed became faster and faster. Her expression was cold, and the silver needle in her hand flew up and down. Every time it moved, it would bring out a mercury column. Soon, she pierced the last needle and ended the competition. Alice pressed the stop button, and then her mouth opened wide in surprise. "Oh my God, that's too fast. 101 seconds. Oh my God, how could she be so fast? How did this woman practice? She was only 1 second away from entering 100 seconds. Isn't this too exaggerated? It's over. Is there any hope for Huaxia? Don't be discouraged. Our medical sage hasn't made a move yet." At this time, the competition had entered a white-hot stage. Under the attention of thousands of people, Qin Haodong stood up and walked toward the acupuncture statue with a smile on his face. His footsteps were very calm, as if he was not going to compete, but to receive an award. Chapter 586. Seeing Qin Haodong on the stage, Alice said, "Dear medical sage, are you finally going to fight? James said that you are his teacher and he highly admires your medical skills. I'm really looking forward to your performance." Qin Haodong said, "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Kim Siyuan just put away her silver needles. She turned around and said to Qin Haodong, "Huaxia man, you can't beat me." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Then you'll be disappointed." Kim Siyuan snorted coldly and turned to walk off the stage. When Qin Haodong came to the acupuncture statue, Alice said, "Medical sage, can we start now?" President Alice, you might not know this, but this acupuncture bronze statue came from Huaxia. Acupuncture was also created by our ancestors. If we were to compete with them like this, I think we're bullying them. So, we have to increase the difficulty. While speaking, Qin Haodong took out a black silk from his pocket and covered his eyes. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, he wanted to defend the dignity of Chinese medicine. Today, he not only wanted to defeat these provocateurs of Koryo, but also wanted to make them despair and completely lose the courage to challenge. After the previous few games, everyone had already known the difficulty of the acupuncture statue. Many people still had hope for Qin Haodong, but when they saw that he had covered his eyes, the audience suddenly burst into an uproar. "Oh my God, will he die if he doesn't act tough? Didn't he see how fast the woman in front of him is? He even covered his eyes. How can he win? What do you mean? What does he mean? Is he looking for trouble? Is the medical sage crazy or is he going to throw the game? The holes on the acupuncture statue are so small. How can he stab with his eyes covered?" Li Junqi glanced at him and suddenly laughed. "Is this what the Huaxia people call looking for trouble? How can he compete with his eyes covered? What's the point of competing? Such a person has the nerve to call himself a medical sage. I think he should be called a moron." Kim Siyuan shook her head slightly. Originally, she felt a trace of danger from Qin Haodong, but now it seemed that she had thought too much. How could such an arrogant person defeat her? But at this moment, a scene that shocked them even more appeared. Qin Haodong actually took out 2 4-inch-long needles from the needle bag. He held one in each hand and held the needles with both hands. Seeing this scene, Fang Heluan shouted, "What is this kid doing? Was he playing to the gallery? I've practiced medicine for so many years, but I've never seen anyone who can use needles with both hands." He had just experienced the difficulty of the acupuncture bronze statue. It was already very difficult to beat Kim Siyuan in a normal competition, but this guy was still increasing the difficulty. What was he trying to do? It's fine for young people to like to show off, but you have to have the strength to do so. He had already seen the acupoints of the acupuncture bronze statue clearly. All he needed to do was to send the silver needles in. It was also because of the spirit that he had the confidence to use needles with both hands. Is he still a human? Not only Kim Siyuan, but all the people present who knew acupuncture were stunned. It should be known that the acupuncture bronze statue was exquisite. Each acupoint had an extremely accurate requirement for strength. If the strength was too strong, the mercury would not flow out, and if the strength was too weak, there would be no reaction. However, Qin Haodong was blindfolded, and his hands were moving left and right. Not only could each needle accurately pierce into the acupoints, but the strength was just right. Each needle could bring out a stream of mercury. It was not an exaggeration to call this kind of technique a divine skill. Through the live broadcast on the internet, the audience from all over the world looked at the screen in front of them with dull eyes. Because Qin Haodong's movements were so fast, they could only see his hands turning into shadows. They couldn't see what was going on at all. This kind of speed was really shocking. However, there was not much time left for them to be shocked. Soon, Qin Haodong had pierced 354 acupoints. When he withdrew the silver needles, the mercury slowly flowed out of the last few acupoints, which showed how fast he was. Alice pressed the stop button of the timer and announced with a shocked face, "Mr. Qin's result is 51 seconds. In an instant, the audience quieted down. 51 seconds was such a shocking number. Kim Si-yuan's performance just now had already amazed the audience, but Qin Haodong's speed was almost twice as fast as hers. Dear Qin, you're so great. Did you just use magic? Alice's face was full of amazement and admiration. Although she didn't know acupuncture, she could see how amazing Qin Haodong's technique was just now. At this time, the audience came to their senses, and then there was thunderous applause and shouts. In 51 seconds, the medical sage of Huaxia completely defeated the people of Koryo with his divine technique. This speed was absolutely unprecedented. No one could surpass it, and no one could even get close to it. Su Hongba stood up and first walked around the acupuncture bronze statue. He reached out and touched it, as if he was admiring his own treasure. After a while, he turned to Li Mingtai and said, "Professor Li, is there anyone else on your side who wants to challenge me? If not, I'll take this acupuncture bronze statue away." Li Mingtai's face was gray, and there was even despair in his eyes. The skill that Qin Haodong had just shown had completely destroyed all their confidence. Facing such a powerful opponent, it was like looking up at a mountain. They had no courage to challenge him at all. 51 seconds, with a black gauze covering his eyes and holding needles in both hands, this kind of divine technique and unimaginable speed would always be on top of the doctors of Koryo. As Qin Haodong had expected, they were completely desperate. Even for thousands of years, no one would dare to stand up and challenge the acupuncture bronze statue of Huaxia. After a moment of silence, he said with great difficulty, "We admit defeat." Hooray, the Koryo finally admitted defeat. The acupuncture bronze statue has gone home. The medical sage is mighty. He won back the acupuncture bronze statue for us. He won honor for Huaxia. Chinese medicine is invincible. The medical sage is mighty. Long live Huaxia. As Li Mingtai admitted defeat, the whole venue was in an uproar. Countless cheers and shouts rang out for a long time. The two old men, Su Hongba and Feng Heluan, were so happy that they danced with joy. They had just received the original copy of the Compendium of Materia Medica, and now they had taken the acupuncture bronze statue home. This was simply the biggest festival in the Chinese medicine world. They called the staff of the venue and carefully carried the acupuncture bronze statue away. Feng Wu glanced at Qin Haodong, who was calm next to her, and asked, "How did you do it?" In the past, she was arrogant and rarely paid attention to others. At this moment, this young man had already attracted her attention. "Nothing, I'm just fast," Qin Haodong said carelessly. "I mean, how did you accurately recognize the acupoints with your eyes covered?" This was what Feng Wu was most puzzled about. Although Qin Haodong's speed was very fast, it was not difficult for her to reach this speed if she was familiar with the acupuncture bronze statue. The difficult part was that he could accurately recognize the acupoints while blindfolded. Qin Haodong put his head in her ear and whispered, "Because I have a third eye." His words seemed to be a joke, but in fact, his powerful spirit was equivalent to his third eye, and it was thousands of times more sensitive than ordinary eyes. "Forget it if you don't want to tell me. There's no need to lie to me." It was the first time in Feng Wu's life that a man was so close to her. Feeling the breath in her ear, she couldn't help blushing. Feeling shy, she didn't ask any more questions. Chapter 587. After the acupuncture statue was carried off the stage, the exchange meeting continued. Su Hongba looked at Li Mingtai with a playful look and said, "Professor Li, do you have any evidence to prove that traditional Chinese medicine came from your country?" Up to this point, these people from Koryo were not here to debate, but to give gifts. They first sent back the Compendium of Materia Medica of Huaxia, and then they sent back the acupuncture statue. Was there any other good stuff? Li Mingtai's face was livid. He glanced at Qin Haodong next to him. He really didn't know if this young man would still have an IOU if he took out another thing. "Professor Su, As for whether Koryo medicine originated from traditional Chinese medicine or traditional Chinese medicine originated from Koryo medicine, we can't debate it in a short time. Why don't we go straight to the next item? Let's compare our medical skills and see which is better. Although he said that, in fact, everyone could see that in the first stage of the debate, Koryo had been completely suppressed by Huaxia. Especially in the end, Qin Haodong's amazing performance on the acupuncture statue made these arrogant people of Koryo speechless. Su Hongba smiled slightly. With Qin Haodong, the medical sage, in charge, of course, he was not afraid of competing in medical skills. He said, "Okay, whatever you want to compete with, we will accept it." Before Li Minte could speak, Li Junqi shouted, "I want to challenge Qin Haodong. Let's compete in pulse diagnosis." Okay. Su Hongba directly agreed. He knew that Qin Haodong's medical skills were the best on his side. Since Qin Haodong wanted to challenge the experts on his side, of course, he didn't have any objection. Qin Haodong glanced at Li Junqi. Originally, with this guy's medical skills, he was not qualified to challenge him at all, but since he had already come close to him, he didn't mind slapping him a few times. "What do you want to compete in?" "I want to show you how big the gap between traditional Chinese medicine and Koryo medicine is." Li Junqi was full of confidence and arrogance as he spoke. Among all the skills of traditional Chinese medicine, he was best at pulse diagnosis, so he directly proposed the one he was best at. Qin Haodong said indifferently, "How do we compete?" Li Junqi said, "Each side will choose 3 people to feel the pulse of the other side. These 3 people can have any diseases, and they can also be healthy people. Let's see if the other side can give an accurate diagnosis." Qin Haodong said, "How to judge the accuracy of the result?" Li Junqi said, "Everyone who is selected will write down their physical condition or illness in advance, and then hand it over to President Alice. Our diagnosis will match the patient's written condition. Each person will make 3 diagnoses, and the one with the most accurate diagnoses will win. For the sake of fairness and to prevent others from cheating, we have to cover our eyes and ears with headphones when feeling the pulse, and only use our hands to feel the pulse." "No problem." Qin Haodong said, "Who's first?" Li Junqi said, "I proposed a challenge. I'll go first. You can choose 3 people at will for me to feel their pulse." After he finished speaking, he sat behind a table, took out a black scarf to cover his eyes, and then put on a big headset with music playing. Qin Haodong looked down the stage. Many onlookers were eager to try, especially Ji Fubao and Tian Boguang. They almost jumped up. He waved his hand, and Ji Fubao and Tian Boguang immediately ran to the stage. Li Meiyu had always been a lively person, so she followed the 2 guys to the stage. The number of 3 people was gathered. According to the rules of the competition proposed by Li Junqi, the 3 of them wrote down their physical condition and sent it to Alice. Su Hui frowned and whispered to Qin Haodong, "Can the 3 of them do it?" As a classmate, she was very clear about the physical condition of these people. After taking the physique-improving pill, these people had no problems at all. They couldn't be healthier. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Just wait and see. These people have the cheek to come to Huaxia to steal our traditional Chinese medicine. Since they are shameless, I will make them lose all their faces here." Seeing the evil smile on Qin Haodong's face, Su Hui knew that things were not as simple as she had imagined. Li Junqi was going to be unlucky. After the 3 of them handed in their notes, Qin Haodong made a silent gesture to them. He patted Li Meiyu's shoulder casually, indicating that she would be the first to feel the pulse. Since Li Junqi's ears and eyes were all covered, Kim Siyuan stood next to him as an assistant. After Li Meiyu sat down, she took Li Junqi's hand and put it on Li Meiyu's pulse. The competition officially began. Under everyone's gaze, time passed minute by minute. About a minute later, Li Junqi withdrew his hand and said confidently, "I'm clear about this. Next one." Qin Haodong patted Tian Boguang's shoulder again and asked him to feel the pulse. Then it was Ji Fubao's turn. In less than 5 minutes, all three of them finished feeling the pulse and then returned to the audience. Lee Junki took off his headset and blindfold, took the pen and paper next to him, and wrote down the three people's symptoms one by one. Kim Siyuan did not leave. She stood next to him. When she saw the symptoms he had written down, her face changed greatly. She couldn't help reminding him, "Are you sure?" Lee Junki did not hear Kim Siyuan's hint at all. He said proudly, "Of course. You know that my level of pulse diagnosis is second only to my father's. These people's symptoms are very common. It's impossible for me to make a mistake." After saying that, he walked straight to Alice and handed in the list of symptoms that he had written. Seeing this scene, Kim Siyuan could not say anything more. She went straight back to her seat and even stretched out her hands to cover her face, as if she could not bear to look at it at all. Seeing her performance, the people next to her all had strange expressions on their faces. They did not know what the problem was. Alice took the paper bag and said, "Mr. Lee, I'm not very familiar with Chinese. You should say it yourself." "Okay." Lee Junki raised his head, faced all the audience under the stage, and said confidently, "The first patient injured his kidney. The kidney deficiency can't flourish with Yin, so he is weak." After listening to him, Li Minte was completely dumbfounded. He sat there with a stiff expression, like a wax statue. He had never expected that his son would say these things. Alice said, "Mr. Lee, this is too profound. Can you make it simpler and easier to understand?" Lee Junki said, "To put it simply, it's what everyone calls yang. Impotence." Su Hongba had just taken a sip of tea. After hearing his words, he suddenly spat it out and then coughed violently. Although many of the audience present did not understand Chinese medicine, they all burst into laughter after hearing his words. Everyone knew that the first patient was Li Meiyu, a beautiful girl. How could he say that she was impotence? Could it be funnier than this? This guy is really funny. He actually said that our school bell is yang. Impotence. A quack. He's really a quack. I've lived for so many years, and it's an eye-opener. How dare he come to Huaxia to provoke us with such a low level? I really don't know what these guys are thinking. I'm dying of laughter. I'm really dying of laughter. I thought this guy was very good, but now it seems that he's not as good as me. At least I won't say that a woman is yang. Impotence. Tian Buguang and Ji Fubao were sitting next to Li Meiyu. They looked at her and laughed. They were about to faint from laughing. Li Junki stood there, confused by the laughter around him. He didn't know what his problem was. At this moment, a beautiful girl stood up from the audience, pointed at his nose and scolded, "Who are you talking about? Impotence? You're the one with yang. Impotence, your whole family is yang. Impotence, all your ancestors are yang. Impotence." Li Meiyu was really going to go crazy. Originally, she just went up to join in the fun. She didn't expect that this guy's diagnosis would be so wrong. He actually said that she was yang. Impotence? How could she live? Li Junki was completely dumbfounded. Could it be that he had just diagnosed this girl? But he clearly felt that her pulse was yang. Impotence? What was going on? Feng Wu glanced at Qin Haodong, who had a wicked smile on his face, and said in a low voice, "Did you do it? You can't talk nonsense. The diagnosis was made by him. It has nothing to do with me." Qin Haodong said with a playful face, "If I don't let these guys suffer some losses, how will they know the breadth and depth of traditional Chinese medicine?" He had just patted Li Meiyu's shoulder and instantly changed her pulse with greenwood genuine qi. The pulse that Li Junki felt was the pulse that he wanted Li Junki to see. Su Hongba held back his laughter. He stood up and motioned for Li Meiyu to sit down. He maintained the order of the venue and then motioned for Alice to continue. Although Alice didn't know the mystery, she also knew that Li Junki's first diagnosis was wrong, and it was very wrong. She said, "Mr. Li, please tell me the diagnosis of the second patient." Li Junqi took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He recalled Tian Buguang's pulse and confirmed that there was no mistake. He said, "The second patient's disease is irregular menstruation." This time, he didn't dare to show off his achievements in traditional Chinese medicine, so he directly told the final result. But as soon as he said that, everyone present completely burst into laughter. Tian Buguang, such a big man, was said to have irregular menstruation. What words could people use to describe this kind of medical skill and doctor? Li Mingtai felt as if his face was on fire. He finally understood why Kim Siyuan had such a reaction when she saw Li Junqi's diagnosis. Now he wanted to find a place to hide. Shameful. It was really shameful. However, he had found so many reporters and broadcast it live all over the world. How could the Li family raise their heads as doctors in the future? The audience watching the live broadcast from all over the world also laughed. They didn't understand whether this doctor from Koryo was here to compete in medical skills or to be funny. First, he said that a woman was impotence. Then, he said that a man had irregular menstruation. This was too unreliable. Was this the level of Koryo medicine? Chapter 588. Tian Buguang was convulsing with laughter because of Li Meiyu's diagnosis just now, and his face was a little numb. But when he heard Li Junqi's diagnosis, his smile immediately froze on his face and he was completely dumbfounded. The tables had turned. Li Meiyu, who had been embarrassed by his smile, burst into laughter without caring about her image. Ji Fubao laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. He patted Tian Buguang on the shoulder and said with difficulty, "Brother, when did you get a terminal illness? Why didn't you tell me?" Tian Buguang said angrily, "This damn guy, I'll fight him to the death." Looking at the whole venue, except for those people from Koryo, everyone fell into wild laughter. The corner of Feng Wu's mouth twitched. She said to Qin Haodong, "Isn't this a bit too much?" "Too much? I don't think so." Qin Haodong glanced at Li Mingtai and the others, whose faces were extremely ugly, and said, "Do you know what these people are doing here? It sounds like a cultural exchange, but in fact, it's naked plunder." In those days, they were ignorant and backward. It was the Huaxia people who taught them slash-and-burn farming, culture and medical skills. But what happened in the end? These people who bite the hand that feeds them say that they created traditional Chinese medicine, our compendium of materia medica, and even our outstanding ancestors. Feng Wu said lightly, "In this world, what's true and what's false can't be true, and what's true can't be false. Traditional Chinese medicine is Huaxia's traditional Chinese medicine. Everyone knows it clearly." "No. You're wrong. Not everyone knows it clearly." Qin Haodong said, "Only our Huaxia people know it clearly. Some foreigners and Westerners won't be able to tell it apart if they call it that. They might even think that traditional Chinese medicine originated from Koryo medicine. For example, President Alice, I guess she didn't know the relationship between traditional Chinese medicine and Koryo medicine before this. If these people continue to make fun of her, more and more people will be confused." Feng Wu said, "Are these false reputations so important to you?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course it's important. The reason why you don't care is that you don't care about traditional Chinese medicine. If I'm not wrong, you should be a martial artist. If one day someone jumps out and says that your sex things were learned from them, or even stolen from them, how would you feel? For example, if the child was your biological child, but your neighbor, old Wang, jumped out and said it was his, how would you feel? Don't tell me you're going to remain indifferent and echo the opinions of others." This, Feng Wu's expression changed a little, and she fell silent. She had her own sect, she had something she wanted to protect, and she would never allow anyone to violate the things she cared about. Qin Haodong continued, "The reason why I did this is to let these people of Koryo see the gap between them and genuine Chinese medicine practitioners. Secondly, I want them to lose face. Since they are so shameless, we will slap their faces hard. I want the whole world to see that Koryo medicine is nothing in front of Chinese medicine practitioners. I want the whole world to know that Koryo medicine practitioners don't even deserve to carry shoes for Chinese medicine practitioners. These people who come to provoke us will only be in awe when we hurt them. If we simply win today's game, they will have Kim Min-tae and Park Min-tae come to Huaxia to show off their strength. Anyway, they will be heroes if they win. It doesn't matter if they lose. Feng Wu's expression changed again and she said, "You're right." While the two of them were talking, the laughter in the hall faded, and Alice had laughed enough. As the referee, the game still had to go on. She said to Lee Junki, who was completely confused, "Mr. Lee, please tell me the diagnosis of the third person." This, although he had already noticed that something was wrong, he still had to say the last result. Lee Junki gritted his teeth and said, "The third person's pulse is rolling like a pearl." In the eyes of Koryo medicine practitioners, this is the pulse of pregnancy, so I diagnosed her as pregnant. Ji Fubao had just stopped smiling and rubbed his numb cheek. When he heard Lee Junki's diagnosis, his eyes suddenly widened. Damn it, what the hell? When did I get pregnant? Tian Buguang, who had been laughed at for a long time, suddenly burst into laughter. You're pregnant, fat brother. You're really pregnant. Whose child is it? I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with me. Ji Fubao was so angry that his eyes suddenly widened. Damn Koryo medicine. You can't tell me that I'm pregnant just because my belly is a little bigger, can you? With the announcement of the diagnosis, the venue, which had just calmed down for a while, was in an uproar again. Everyone already had doubts about today's exchange meeting. Were they here to watch a game or a comedy? Is this little Korean doctor a joke? A beautiful girl said that she was impotent. A tall and handsome man said that he had irregular menstruation. Finally, a tall and strong man said that he was pregnant. Damn Koryo medicine. Can you do it? Can you be more reliable? Get out. Get out. With this level of skill, how dare you challenge our Huaxia traditional Chinese medicine practitioners? You're really too weak. With this level of skill, you can just pull out your hair and hang yourself. Can you just stay at home? Why did you come out and make a fool of yourself? In the face of the ridicule around him, Lee Junki's face was pale and his eyes were dull. He even began to waver in his studies. What's going on? What the hell is going on? It's obviously that pulse. Why is it so wrong? Alice said, Mr. Lee Junki, although I don't understand Koryo medicine or traditional Chinese medicine, I can directly give you the result from the competition just now. Your diagnoses of the 3 patients are completely wrong. The first patient is a beautiful lady. You said that she was impotent. The second and third patients are both men, but you said that they were pregnant because of irregular menstruation. This is not scientific at all, so you must be wrong. Feng Wu said to Qin Haodong, I'm really curious about how you did it. It's actually very simple. It's just a little trick. Qin Haodong looked at her and smiled. If you want, I can also give you a pulse. You can choose any of the 3. Bah. You can keep yours. Feng Wu's face was flushed, which was rare. She looked particularly attractive. How could this be? Lee Junki looked confused. Suddenly, he saw Qin Haodong next to him and immediately cried, I know, it's him. It must be him. He must have cheated. Alice's face immediately darkened and she said in a cold voice, Mr. Lee, are you questioning the fairness of my judgment? If you say that Mr. Qin cheated, please show me the evidence. Lee Junki just felt that something was wrong. There was no evidence. Come back. Don't embarrass yourself anymore. Lee Min-tae called Lee Junki back and then said to Alice, President Alice, my son's diagnosis is over. According to the rules, it should be Mr. Qin's turn. All right then. Alice shook her head slightly. In her opinion, there was no point in continuing. But since the other party had asked, she had to finish the competition completely. She turned back to Qin Haodong and said, "Mr. Medical Sage, it's your turn now." Qin Haodong nodded with a smile. Then, he sat in front of the table where Li Mingtai had just sat. He also covered his eyes with a black scarf and put on a headset to play music. Li Mingtai said to Kim Siyuan, "Go to our college and choose 3 healthy people. There must be no problem with them. Send them up for Qin Haodong's diagnosis." Kim Siyuan said in a low voice, "Teacher, what do you mean?" Li Mingtai said, "This competition is already very embarrassing for us. Now we can only hope that Qin Haodong will also make mistakes and save some face for us. But since he dares to call himself the medical sage, he must have some skills. Ordinary diseases can't stop him. It's better to play an empty fort strategy and send 3 healthy people to see if they can disturb his mind." "Okay, teacher." Kim Siyuan nodded. Li Mingtai's trick was not about medical skills, but about a person's mind. In this kind of competition, it was difficult for ordinary people to have the courage to make 3 healthy diagnoses. As long as Qin Haodong made a wrong diagnosis, they would be able to save some face for them. She walked down the stage and soon brought 2 students from Koryo to the stage. Li Mingtai said, "Why is one missing?" Kim Siyuan said, "We don't have many students. It's not easy to find a completely healthy one. I'll be the 3rd one." Li Mingtai nodded. The 3 of them wrote down their physical conditions and handed them to Alice. The first student walked to Qin Haodong's table. Qin Haodong reached out and touched the student's wrist for about 10 seconds. Then, he said, "Okay, next one." Then, he called the second student. It still took him more than 10 seconds to call the 3rd one. Fang Heluan frowned and said, "Isn't it too fast? Young people are still not very reliable. Aren't they a little arrogant?" Su Hongba didn't care. He said with a smile, "I don't think little Qin is that kind of person. Even if he is arrogant, he has the capital to be arrogant." So far, he was extremely satisfied with Qin Haodong's performance in today's exchange meeting, which had exceeded his previous expectations. After the second student left, Kim Siyuan sat down and put her wrist on the table. Qin Haodong reached out and put his hand on Kim Siyuan's pulse. Just when everyone thought that he would finish the diagnosis soon, he frowned slightly. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. After a full 3 minutes, Qin Haodong took back his right hand. The students all left. Qin Haodong took off his blindfold and headset and began to write down his diagnosis on a piece of paper. Just like the previous procedure, he first handed the paper to Alice, and then told the result of his diagnosis in public according to Alice's request. Qin Haodong said, "The first one is healthy, and the second one is healthy." When he said this, Li Mingtai's heart suddenly jumped. Could it be that this young man's psychological quality was so good that his plan was going to fail? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.